music going on. Yeah. Fast. Yeah, I see. I mean, what's that here? Down.
Thank you. Hello and good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting of Tuesday, June 10th. We have just returned from a lovely retirement reception for some of our teachers and staff who will be retiring this year. And we are now in our open session. We'd like to begin this meeting like we do every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, I'll begin by reading our mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. Next in our meeting, item number 4 would be public comment, and that would be for if there was anybody in studio who would be here for public comment. I don't think I see anyone, and nothing on Zoom. Okay. Moving along to our Student Advisory Council, I believe we have Amit and Shay, who I hear graduated already, but they're doing some overtime, so welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Wait, can you guys hear us?
Yep.
We can.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll start. It's gonna be pretty quick today. My name is Ahmed Hoffman, and I'm now an alumni of Wakefield Memorial High School.
And my name's Shay Sunken. I am also now an alumni at Wakefield Memorial High School.
And
You go first.
yeah. So obviously, the first thing we're gonna talk about is graduation. It just happened past Saturday successfully. All I think 209 seniors graduated, and it was great.
Speeches were very well read by everyone at the graduation. It was very successful, I think. We also wanted to let you know that this Friday starts the finals for grades 9 through 11. And I think that's it. Are we good?
I think so. And then to end it off, we wanted to thank you guys and for the past 2 years and for this amazing opportunity. I know a lot of different districts don't get as big of an opportunity as we do for student representation, and it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was very nice getting to know all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck in your future endeavors, and hopefully, we can hear about your, future successes. So
Yeah.
it was great to see you both on stage.
You'll have
Thank
to
you.
zoom in from
Thank
your
you.
freshman year.
Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, consent agenda.
All right, this one will be long. Approval, motion to approve the minutes of the October 29th, November 12th, November 26th, December 10th, 2024 school committee meetings, and the January 7th, January 21st, February 11th, February 25th, March 11th, and May 27th, 2025 school committee meetings. Also to accept as presented the minutes of the Finance and Facilities Subcommittee from the following meeting dates: January 16th, February 7th, March 13th, April 24th, May 8th, October 2nd, November 6th, December 19th, all in the year 2024.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? I will just comment that was a laundry list of things. I would just say for those who are listening, we were doing some catch-up paperwork in our minutes from our previous sort of secretary who had left us in a way that sort of was just unfortunate. And so we've had a new secretary with us for a little while, and she's been working hard with us to get us caught up in that in the things that we sort of owe in terms of meeting sort of paperwork. So that's why that list was so long. But glad to have that behind us, and thank you to Michelle, who worked hard to get that done for us and with us. So, all right, motion's made and seconded. Those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you all. Okay, moving forward, budget items. Ms. Bafagna.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
We can?
Great. So tonight in your packet, you have the financial report from July 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025. As you can see, we just have about 1.4% remaining of this budget of the local budget. We're down to the last fiscal month of this year. June, you'll see a lot of end of year activity. So May and June are pretty busy. So the next page you'll see for the grants, we have a little under 2% remaining. All the encumbrances to finish out those grants have been completed. And then on the last page, you'll see the revolving accounts. Now that, just keep in mind, those revolving accounts have not had the transfers done. So when you see the next report, probably in July, you'll see those balances come quite down from the balances now in May. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see any.
No questions? Then we'll have two payrolls for a motion to approve.
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants 46 and 48 as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? All right, and that is unanimous.
And tonight we have two gifts to approve.
Move that the school committee accepts with gratitude the donation of $2,400 from the Woodville PTO for stipends for teachers who completed the Math Boost program.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? I would just comment, I think we had a presentation on this from the Woodville PTO about doing some extended math work with their students with the help of teachers. And so we'd just like to say thank you for sort of finding a way to use some of those important fundraising dollars back into schools and students' education. So that was great. All right, those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
And move that the school committee accepts with gratitude the donation of $2,771.05 from the Wakefield High School boys volleyball team, $1,800 stipend for the assistant coach, and $971.05 to be used at team's discretion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? Thank you, and thank you to the boosters. Okay. Moving on from budget items, thank you, Christine. Into superintendent's remarks and comments.
With the permission of the chair, I'm going to take my items out of order.
Yes, please.
I'd like to start off, it was mentioned when we started our meeting. We came, prior to starting our meeting this evening, we had a retiree reception where we had the really nice opportunity to recognize 4 of our retirees that were able to be with us tonight. Several couldn't make it tonight, but we have a few in studio with us. We have Denise DeTono, who has worked as a paraeducator for us since 2014. Denise has been a remarkable paraleader. She's kind of led to the settling of 2 contracts, and we were talking just briefly before we got in studio. I think she's held almost every non-unit A role in the district, and so she's really going to be sorely missed. And but we know she's enjoying time with her grandchildren and kind of working. Things are working pretty great for her. So again, she's in studio. Would like to just recognize her and her service to the Wakefield Public Schools. So thank you. Also, Janet Livesey is here with us. She's Dolbear teacher. She's worked in the district for 38 years. That's after taking a little bit of time off to spend some time with family, but really has just an amazing background. Taught in Malden, taught in Portland, Maine, has worked at the Montrose School, and has been at Dolbear, has also done, summer school, and is just really a teacher that has distinguished herself in so many ways just by leading with remarkable love and care. So I just want to recognize her in studio as well. So congratulations. So also, two members that were with us at the reception earlier that couldn't come over to the studio were Paula Gaudadaro, who has been at this for a long time. She was a para for a number of years before she made the jump to the classroom in 2007. Had several long-term sub positions, and when Rick McKenna made the jump to guidance, Paula filled his role in 2008 and has been there ever since. And I would like to wish her well. So congratulations. So also at the reception this evening was Suzanne Burns. And Suzanne Burns is, one of the icon teacher, leader, counselors in our district at our high school, and is just a remarkable presence and is a go-to for students, a go-to for adults, and she's going to be missed terribly. She has started so much, right? So she was a guidance counselor. In 2019, she made the transition to adjustment counseling. Also was the first person to kind of get us going with Breezy as a therapy dog, which opened the door for Winnie the Warrior, which we now have, which we feel like we couldn't do without them now. But really just a remarkably skilled counselor and faculty member at our school. It's going to be sorely missed. So congratulations to her as well. And so just to some other retirees that couldn't be with us tonight, Carol Willett, who's worked as a high school para, just such a distinguished, really remarkably thoughtful, respectful adult, has really just significant relationships with kids. She's retiring this year. Sheila Robertson is a Dolbear teacher. Sheila is a veteran that has many years of service here. She's going to be missed. She left in the month of September, but still during this year, I want to recognize her. Dan Matheson. So Dan worked as a high school custodian here. Dan just did really nice work. Kind of a quiet man, but super thoughtful. Dave Butler. Dave Butler, I believe, had 50 years of service here. And so just really kind of milestones and the work that people are doing here. It's unbelievable. So other personnel that we want to congratulate as well. Nancy DiTullio, who worked in our cafeteria. Donna Delaney, who was a Woodville para. Donna's really a remarkable adult and so kind and thoughtful. And we want to wish Amy McCarthy best in her retirement as well. And last is Ken Melanson. And Ellie Asayan is also on our list, which is, we love Eleanor. She's amazing. She has 53 years of experience, and so quite a milestone. It's going to be easy to make you feel like a slacker straight away. But we want to wish them all their best in their retirement. So congratulations. So next,
Pete, did you have a comment?
I did. I just want to congratulate all of our retirees and thank two in particular, one who's in studio with us tonight. Miss Livesey, sorry, I can tear up when I say this, but my daughter was in Miss Livesey's first grade class. It was, that difficult year where they're wearing masks, they're there half the year. And Miss Livesey became like family both to my daughter and to my kids. So just wanted to give my thanks to her for her service to Wakefield Public Schools. Also to thank Miss Yasayan for her service. She also was one of my son's fifth grade teachers. And he hunts her down every time he came to the Galvin to tell her how much, how much she influenced him and how much he wanted to be a teacher because of her. So just wanted to give my thanks to all these incredible staff members for their service. But especially those two for their impact on my own children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome up the boys track team, along with Perry and Ruben. If you want to come up. So I hope you don't mind, gentlemen. We're taking things a little out of order. We want to try to get you up first, if that's okay. So Coach Pappas and Coach Reynoso this is kind of the closest thing we have. You know, music, we talk about music kind of winning championships year over year. The closest thing we have on the athletic side are these guys. You know, they're amazing. And so it's one of the most well-attended team sports. And so the numbers are, every time I hear them, the number of kids that are running with you, it's amazing. Can you introduce yourselves and share a little bit about the size of the program? I feel like I have inside information. But can you talk a little bit about that? And congratulations on your championship.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have the kids introduce themselves first. Start with Frankie.
Yeah, so I'm Frankie Sullivan.
I'm Ethan Mezakovsky. And I'm Adam Levy.
Coach Reynoso, Ruben Reynoso.
Perry Pappas.
So right now we have a little over 70 boys. So our numbers got back up after the pandemic. We went down a little bit. And 70? We have a little over 70, and we have a little over 60 on the girls' side. So it's the biggest numbers we've had since probably 2020, 2021, yeah.
That's great. And so we've won the championship this year. And can you talk a little bit about the championship and also kind of the All-States and now Nationals? Do I understand this correctly?
Yeah, so we have a couple girls going to Nationals. We have also a boy that qualified as well. And so this is the two years in a row that we've won the championship. It came down to the very last event, so it's really exciting. So it's nice because we're a very rounded team, so pretty much all the kids on all the events were able to contribute to the team, and complete team effort. I know it sounds cliche, but it was really, that this year. But they were having some issues with the long jump pit, so usually the relay, the 4x4, is the last event. So we had won that. Ethan's part of that. And all the other events were done. We were down to one event left. They had a kid, we had a kid, and we just needed a point. So he stepped up big time, broke the school record, qualified for Nationals, second in Massachusetts, and he was able to get 8 points, so that kind of put us over the edge. Last year was just as exciting. It went down to the very last event as well. Remember vividly, Frankie had a huge throw, kind of gave us some really big team points. We needed the 4x1 relay, which Adam was part of it. We needed to get second in that. We were able to do that, and then we were able to score in the 4x4, and we won. I think it was, 3 points?
Yep.
3 points last year, and then this year was by 8.
Three teams involved last year.
Yeah. So it's exciting. It's exciting the last couple of years. So, yeah.
This is great. Any of the athletes want to share a little bit?
Of course, they love to
Their
talk.
experience.
They love the camera.
States this year was absolutely electric, if I do say so myself. Every time I looked over at someone on my team who was there, everyone had a medal, everyone had a smile on their face. It was a joy to witness. I mean, it was, as Coach said, full team effort, and it was really amazing to watch. I mean, we were always in the top 5, top 4 for almost every single event. We had success all around, and like I said to start, it was electric.
What event do you do?
I do the 100-meter, the 4x1, and javelin.
So I'm Ethan. I think that somehow the loss of our track actually brought us more together, because we're building the high school now, but that was on the old track, which we miss now. That was a good convenience just to walk right outside after school, but we don't have that. But I think that it really helped us because, first of all, the coaches were able to find other places, facilities we could do workouts that we had to do. And I think that that built our confidence because we had to like work together, show that no matter what we faced, we could always like come back, become the great team we are. That just gave us a lot of confidence, teamwork over time.
Yeah, and definitely speaking to the hindrance of not having a track this year, I think everybody came together just as well as he could. This team has some of the most welcoming athletes and students in Wakefield that I've ever seen. Speaking to me, because I was a junior coming onto this team, I've been completely welcomed with open arms. Everybody here there's so much talent on the team. Everybody here just wants to compete, get better, and they push each other to get better each day. And it speaks a lot to the coaches and as well as the depth to this program.
Could you two also say maybe what events you guys are?
I'm primarily the 800 meter and the 4x4.
And I throw the shot put and I do the discus as well.
That's cool. Nice. And are you a senior?
Yes.
Is this where you're going?
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Kevin?
Yeah, so I've been following your program for a while, and like you've always had a reputation of having a great distance running program. Congrats to Mr. Pappas. But like one thing that's really been impressive, like just watching the results over this year, is like you are truly well-rounded. Like you've got great sprints, you got this unbelievable jumper. Like he's still the second in the state right now in the long jump with that mark. I mean that's really impressive. Like we're not like a Division I school. We don't have 3,000 kids. Like for a Division IV program to be second in the state, and as Hollis was it the was the number first in the first place was the same meet?
Yeah.
Yeah. But just phenomenal. The 4x4 champs. I mean, you guys are just so well rounded. And is this 3 out of 4 you've won? Division IV champs?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are a powerhouse. Like, I mean, we talk about like marching band. We talk about like we have great theater music programs, but you guys really, you really have put Wakefield on the map, and we just want to really congratulate you, like all of you. And please tell your teammates that like we just want them to know that we're honoring you. And the girls too. I feel bad now. I feel really bad that we just survived the boys, but because I know they've had some unbelievable performances too. But congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The thing I find most impressive is just seeing how hard all of you work. I mean, I said this last year, and I'll say it again this year. Driving around town, you see all of these kids and their teammates just running around town constantly. I mean, I have trouble running up and down my stairs, and I watch you guys run around town. I'm like, this is crazy, and you do this every day. It doesn't matter what the weather is. And so it's definitely not by accident. I mean, you clearly work hard to get to this place. And so congratulations to all of you, your teammates, and your coaches.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess my only question is, so are you both returning next year? Or what year are you?
Oh, I'm a senior.
You're a senior too? Okay.
Yeah, I was senior.
Oh, all right. So maybe it's more for the coach. How are you gonna uphold this next year?
I mean, the thing is about track, we go with what we have. Sometimes, you know, in the past we've been strong in distance. Our distance was strong this year. I think we graduated a lot of talent. I mean, every year seniors are going to graduate. So it's just a matter of getting used to being bored at practice, doing the same thing, working hard. You know, we have a saying, we talk to the kids about it. We don't focus on the results. We just focus on working hard, becoming a better person, becoming a better student. And then in the end, if that's success, that's success. But for us, we're going beyond just winning championships. So, I mean, if we have talent, we have talent. We're still going to work just as hard. So we have a very good team coming back next year, but things happen, injuries happen. With the success that we've had last year, you know, we won the state title with 2 of our best athletes being injured. Well, actually, one of them came back that same meet. This year, we missed one of our best pole vaulters. He didn't come back this year. So we had so much success. Just imagining what he could have done for our program. Maybe we would have won by more. So things do happen. I mean, but our focus is just working hard, becoming a better athlete, becoming a better person, better son, better daughter. And then in the end, you know, if that translates to some state titles, then so be it. But as of right now, looking at our team, we do have a lot of underclassmen. So we're hoping that next year is just as good as this year.
We're not really a sport that kids coming into high school target to join. It just kind of happens sometimes. So we try to provide a great experience, and the kids in the team provide a great experience for everyone else. And hopefully the word gets out, and that's how we grow. So
That's awesome. Great.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, absolutely.
Yeah, I know I think there's a cross-country program at the Galvin. So, but there is no real, every other sport sort of has clubs. You got Little League, you got soccer, you got basketball, track, you really don't see until you sort of hit high school. So to sort of build up in that short time, the depth of a program, that well-roundedness that Kevin talked to, you need good coaching, but you also need good role models, and sort of seeing you three sort of sit here. We talk about this often. We see sort of student leaders come in, and for individuals such as yourselves that can focus on the academic portion of school, but also become sort of this other student leader in this very in-depth, this program that demands this level of focus from you, the demand that your coaches need from you to be successful. Your peers below sort of see that happen, and I'm sure that you're sort of role models for them, so that while you're sort of moving on to your next phase, I have no doubt that sort of the echo that you leave behind, you'll leave some underclassmen, some juniors wanting to step into those roles because you've highlighted them so well. So to Kevin's point, I'm sure Kevin's not the only one in the community that follows you with every issue of the item, and he's following your box scores or whatever it is. But you give back to the community in a way that maybe you don't always see. Maybe you hear it at your dinner table, but it's at other people's dinner tables as well. So thank you for your focus, for being there for your peers and for your coaches, and for your larger community. So I hope you sort of know that you have an impact. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
I feel like we can't hear the messaging. I feel like we can't hear the messaging that came from Coach Reynoso a moment ago, right? It's not about outcomes, it's about the process and about working at something, right? And being part of something greater than yourself. We go with the kids we have, and then we help kids to work hard at something, right? It's not it's not about being the best athlete, it's about being as good as you can be. Being the best son, being the best student, being the best, right? And the coaches are so remarkably understated. Kids don't join track and stay on track. They don't have 140 people because, their friends are doing it. They don't run all over town just because their friends are doing it. They do this because of the culture that's been created on this team, both by Ruben and Perry Pappas. And you hear them, they sat down and they have nothing to say. They're just quiet. They're so understated about what they do year in and year out. We're really fortunate to have them, so we're grateful. Other athletic news, just very quick update. Baseball team beat Bishop Stang on Sunday to advance, and they're going to face off tomorrow at 4 p.m. At Fraser Field in Lynn. So they're going to be playing North Reading, and so they have one more game to get to the state final. But they have had a storybook season, and I think you'll be hearing more about them. And so we also want to kind of give our congratulations to our middle school musical theater group, who was represented last night in the METG Music Theater Awards. Frozen Junior was awarded Best Direction, Best Performance in a feature role, E.J. Savage, Best Performance in a supporting role from our young Spry, from the famous Spry family. They're all actors. I think they just have theater camp at their house all summer. And we have Best Performance in a leading role as well by Kira Gasson, and Best Overall Production. So not a bad kind of representation from our middle school theater group. I'm going to try to move quickly through my agenda items. Next, I'd like to invite up Diana Ho and Katie Pat to talk a little bit about kind of our alumni network.
Hi, everybody.
So I think we just need to switch the deck. So just give us a second.
We could do this one too.
What's that? If you want to do that.
We might take you up on that.
And I apologize for that. Thank you for being flexible.
We're done too.
While we're getting ready for that, I believe that one of the leads of the high school show was also recognized at that event.
Owen Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, outstanding performance.
Yep.
So.
And I'll say that Galvin show was amazing. I mean, that was high school quality.
Yeah,
It was just the talent
really good.
of those kids.
Yep.
All right.
Does this look familiar at all?
Yeah.
Good. Where are their words?
So I'm Diana Ho, and I'm the.
We're playing the video first, is that?
We'll do a little quick intro, and then we'll play. Thank you.
Oh.
So I'm Diana Ho, I'm the library and media specialist at the high school, and
I'm Katie Pat. I'm a rising senior at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., and I am class of 2022 here.
so Katie reached out to me because she knew I was working on our new district website, and she was wondering if there was just a space for like alumni to gather or sort of share like businesses that they belong to or anything like that. And we were just sort of brainstorming it, and Doug and I had sort of talked about like long-term goals around something like this. And so we sort of came up with a sort of plan of what this could look like over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, so the Wakefield High School Alumni Directory Board is an initiative to reconnect the alumni and foster networking opportunities and strengthen relationships between the past and present students. This directory would serve as a vital resource for the school, the students, and the graduates by facilitating mentorships, career development, and increased engagement in Wakefield High School.
But now we have a very short 7-minute video that outlines all of these things. If we can play it.
Yes.
Is there a secret word? Yeah, we're ready for the video.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Pat. I'm a proud Wakefield Memorial High School alumni in class of 2022, and I'm currently a junior at the Catholic University of America studying sales and marketing.
And I'm Diana Ho, the librarian and media specialist here at Wakefield Memorial High School. Together we're proposing the launch of a Wakefield Public Schools alumni network, an initiative designed to connect the past, enrich the present, and invest in the future.
So why now? We believe that Wakefield alumni are one of our greatest untapped resources. They've gone on to success in countless industries, as many are eager to give back to our community.
This network will leverage alumni expertise for school and student advancement, provide students with real-world career insights, strengthen the bond between WMHS and our wider community, and preserve the incredible legacy of Wakefield graduates.
To bring vision into life, we built our proposal around 5 core objectives that will guide and create the long-term success of the Wakefield Alumni Association. Each one addresses a specific need in our community and our school and lays the groundwork for meaningful, lasting impact.
Objective 1, formalized alumni reconnection and engagement. Objective 1, formalized alumni reconnection and engagement. We're not just looking to collect names, we're building a real network. This means creating a secure, searchable alumni directory and developing structured ways for graduates to reconnect with classmates, teachers, and the school itself. Whether someone graduated 5 years ago or 50, they deserve to feel like they're still part of the Wakefield story.
Objective 2, facilitation of career and mentorship pathways. This is about turning experience into opportunity. Wakefield alumni work in healthcare, tech, education, business, and the arts, you name it. By creating mentorship and internship programs, we can connect current students and young graduates with alumni who's walked in similar paths, offering career advice, job shadowing, and even internships.
Objective 3, enhancement of school and community synergy. A strong alumni network strengthens the bond between WMHS and the town of Wakefield. When alumni feel connected to their high school, they're more likely to attend events, volunteer, donate, and stay engaged with the broader community. This synergy creates a cycle of giving back from one generation to the next.
Objective 4, preservation and advancement of WMHS legacy. Every graduate has a story, and those stories deserve to be told. We want to honor the people who've helped shape Wakefield, from standout alumni to beloved teachers and coaches. Through storytelling, archival work, and alumni events, we'll celebrate the school's history and preserve it for Wakefield students.
Objective 5, strategic support for future student generations. At its core, this project is about students. Whether through scholarships funded by alumni, mentorship programs, or shared resources, the network will directly support current and future warriors. We want every student to feel like they're part of something bigger, and that success is within reach. Together, these 5 objectives form the foundation of a network that grows with time, one that connects, supports, and celebrates the people who make Wakefield Public Schools what they are. To make sure this initiative is both strategic and sustainable, we've created a 4-phase implementation plan. Each phase builds upon the last, starting with foundational work and growing into a fully realized alumni network that benefits our entire school system.
Phase 1, foundational data and connecting. This is where it all begins. We'll focus on building Directory's foundation by connecting accurate alumni contact information, launching an official Wakefield Memorial LinkedIn account, conducting structured senior exit interviews to gather emails, post-grad plans, and career interests, working with the guidance department to help students set up a professional email. This phase ensures that we're starting with high-quality, usable data and meaningful first points of connection.
Phase 2, increasing engagement and communication. Once we've built the foundation, we'll focus on creating value for our alumni and students. This includes hosting events like regional alumni meetups, professional development workshops, and a young alumni career and college fair. Launching multi-channel communication like newsletters, social media engagement, and alumni highlights on the website. Creating space for alumni affinity groups based on career interests, industries, or passions.
Phase 3, sustainable program development. To ensure long-term success, we'll build the infrastructure needed to support and grow this network. In this phase, we'll aim to hire dedicated alumni relations staff or assign a leadership team, create a governing board to oversee strategy and partnerships, develop annual giving campaigns and alumni-sponsored scholarships. This phase turns the network into an essential part of the Wakefield ecosystem.
Phase 4, technological advancement and expanded impact. The final phase brings innovation and broader reach. We envision a fully functional online alumni portal where graduates can register for events, connect with each other, access job boards, and donate. Strategic partnerships with local businesses and organizations to open doors for students through internships and career opportunities. And the launch of an alumni-led grant program to fund student projects, classroom needs, or extracurricular growth.
This phased approach allows us to start small and grow with intention. With the school committee support and collaboration from administration, we believe this timeline is realistic, achievable, and positioned to make a lasting difference. Our immediate plan for 2025 and 2026 is to begin, we'll launch an official Wakefield Memorial High School LinkedIn account, conduct senior exit interviews to gather post-grad plans and contact info, collaborate with WMHS guidance to assist with students in creating professional emails, host a young alumni career and college fair as our soft launch event. These foundational steps are low cost, high impact, and community driven.
Our ask to the school committee. We respectfully ask for your support to move this forward by endorsing the Wakefield Alumni Directory Initiative, supporting a follow-up planning meeting, collaborating with us on early implementation beginning in 2025, and helping us to build a lasting, meaningful connection between alumni and the Wakefield community.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come speak at your event today. This project honors the legacy of graduates just like my grandfather, John B. Incanarcio, who served on this very committee and believed deeply in the Wakefield Memorial Schools. This is more than just a database. It's a bridge between generations. We're so grateful for your time and consideration, and we look forward to working with you to bring the Wakefield Alumni Network to life. Thank you.
We can revert back to
Thank
the future director and assistant director of development. And, amazing. Nicely done.
Thank you.
That's great. Any questions? Pete?
I love the idea. I have a few questions. So I heard it sounds like maybe a starting point is using LinkedIn, which is great because at least then we don't have to build our own tools. I did hear a mention at the end about some other tools, and I just was wondering, are those things that we may have to build ourselves, or is that that also leverage some existing tool that's already out there?
Yeah, I think those products already exist in some way. So I came from a high school that had a really strong alumni network, and they utilized a number of tools there. I think it's just about identifying like what we want to purchase. I do think that's sort of a much later thing. Like right now, we don't even have a means to connect with our seniors if they forgot to pick up their yearbook. Like once their school accounts are gone, they're gone. So I think even just like starting with the basics, just like getting emails, seeing if we can connect with kids, that's our first step. Yeah.
And then my other question is around funding. You know, obviously LinkedIn doesn't cost any money, but we're talking about people's time to do things. Mm-hmm. Are we envisioning some volunteer as in a graduate is going to do this, or are we envisioning some type of, I'll use the word stipend, where there's a staff member that, you know, they're doing some activity outside of school hours and they would be compensated for
I think it would be probably a little bit of both. In terms of data entry, it's probably a great space for National Honor Society or some kids to come in and just sort of clean up data and create sort of something like that, or reconnect with alumni and confirm that data is correct. But again, I think that's a little bit, it's probably like our 5-year mark or a 10-year mark versus now.
Yeah, I mean, my main concern was I don't want to set an expectation that a staff member has to do X, Y, and Z if they're not being compensated.
Yeah, I don't think that's the anticipation. I think that ultimately, if it was successful, it would probably be a stipended or like a salaried position.
Or even maybe from some of the fundraising we talked about.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, the idea that graduates can stay in contact with one another. I love the idea that they can maybe help future generations find work. I think it's great. As you said, you know, we kind of lose contact with people once they graduate and allows them to stay connected. So I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. And I think we are doing a lot of this work just in isolation. So we have the internship program. Brian Robertson does this great like vocational talk every year, but I think there are ways to sort of centralize that work and really make it more meaningful.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Kevin?
I think this is a great idea. I'm really excited. I was going to mention your grandfather, so I was glad that you did there at the end because as I was part of kind of version 1.0 of this, he was a really big part of that.
Yeah.
And I think we made some good inroads, but like some initiatives that kind of start to die off a little bit.
It was hard because they didn't even have the technology back then
Right.
to do it. So now because of the technology, it's way easier to do this.
Definitely. I somewhat run, like, I think I'm connected to the Facebook site that's on there, so like, I can connect you with that too. It's defunct. Every once in a while someone will write. I never really noticed that it's there. But Ms. Burns also was on the committee as well back then. So I think it's a great idea. I'm so excited that, that you're proposing to bring it back, and certainly happy to endorse whatever it is you're able to do, because there's a lot of value to something like this. And there were some really fun things that did take place. The Hall of Fame was created, and there was some great evenings there, kind of recognizing, like you said, so many incredible alumni in the arts and the military and government and business. So I'm really excited that it's going to potentially start up again. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I certainly agree, and it's really exciting. To hear about this idea. I think the alumni connections, they exist in a very some informal ways. I think, and you guys probably know this, that there are some classes that are pretty well connected and have reunions even now. So there's probably some people that once this becomes sort of alive and well, I think you may hopefully maybe overrun with some volunteers, because there are some really strong Wakefield connections that go back many years. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm thrilled to endorse it, and I'm sure you'll get the 3 alumni in my house will sign right up. So I think it's wonderful. So good job, and thanks for taking this on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would, when I first saw it, and I know that we do have an alumni link on the new district
Yeah, it
page,
just has
right?
yearbooks so far, yeah.
Still fun to click through. But I know that often this sort of idea of remaining connected seems to always fall to class officers for every year. And that is, while well-intentioned, it's like hit or miss. It depends on sort of, because kids have different, adults, they have different things going on. And so sort of staying connected through those, it's a lot to ask, of people when they're 18. So having some sort of formal thing where you can give not just them, but other people sort of avenues to stay connected, I think is a great idea. Glad you brought up the intern program, because I think we saw some successes from that this year in its pilot. So keeping people connected and letting them sort of come back and stay connected to the schools and to the places that were important to them is great. I think you two should have a road show besides, because you orate really well together. You just, I don't know, it's like, harmonize, whatever it is. So that's really good. Thank you for taking up the work. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing sort of what it becomes.
Thank you.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to move to school improvement plan updates. We're going to welcome Shannon Blacker to the table to talk about Doyle. Evening, Shannon.
All right, so I'm here to talk about the Doyle School Improvement Plan. So goal number 1 on quality teaching was to continue implementing the Haggerty curriculum that we had started in all of our classrooms.
No. You can click. You have a clicker right
supposed
there.
to click. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to click? Sorry, babe.
There we go.
You got it?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so to implement the Haggerty curriculum and to start to track student progress now that we've got a year under our belt rolling it out. So this slide here is just a picture of one of our classrooms doing Haggerty. What we did to track some students, we are tracking all students, but highlighted here, 3 of my teachers who teach our 4-year-olds classrooms tracked a low, medium, and high student throughout the year. Took some baseline data at the beginning of the year, did a mid-year assessment, and took some end-of-the-year data on kids. And those 3 teachers worked in a PLC group this year, collaborated on how to do things, use the assessments in Haggerty to gather their information. So here is the information on our students. So the sample of 9 students that were tracked over some time. This is their results in their baseline, mid-year, and end-of-the-year assessment. So as you can see, we want the red to go down, the blue to go up as we go along. So we've only had 1 student not meeting expectation or in the blue category there, so which is great progress. So it's showing that it's working, and we just had all our transition meetings with kindergarten, so I'd say the kindergarten teachers are pleased with the students coming from Doyle in terms of their baseline for reading. So the second goal that we worked on was to continue working on our curriculum alignment. So last year we piloted a few curriculums, and we decided that homegrown is our best. Doyle is doing good work, so we stuck with that. So this year we updated our scope and sequence and what we do each month in terms of our thematic units. We really tailored it to our 3-year-old classrooms and our 4-year-old classrooms, adding some things in for the 3-year-olds that we wouldn't necessarily need for our 4-year-olds and vice versa. So our ILT worked heavily on that. Actually, we met in August to fine-tune that, so we were ready to go for September. And then in the rest of the year, we did our themes. We also researched high quality and diverse literature to go along with all of our themes this year. And through our PTO and wish lists during teacher appreciation and just another week during the school year, we pushed it out to parents, and we have gotten all the books that we've identified as high quality literature, two books for every unit for every classroom, and have been purchased. There are a few that we still need to purchase, but we will get those if we can this summer. And then we also, the ILT worked on creating 2 activities to go along with each unit that we're doing. So we could have some common lessons that are throughout each class. because every teacher kind of did their own thing in terms of the themes. So we made sure we had some common lessons that are happening. This is just pictures of our books. And we sent out survey to the Google, we sent out a Google form to our staff to get input, the Amazon wish lists, and templates and whatnot. And then our last goal was in line with the new IEP, because as you know, all of our teachers have to write IEPs for our students at Doyle. So we worked on a lot with the new IEP in terms of our professional development this year. So our team created a drive, a resource shared folder that all of our teachers have access to, where we are just dumping in information that aligns with our IEP. So every teacher can access it for any individual student that they may need. So the first is a visual. So the new IEP asks for student voice, even at the age of 3. So it's really difficult. So some of our kids, a lot of our kids are nonverbal when they come in at 3. So we're using a visual to try to ask them what do they want to be when they grow up and things like that. One of my teachers took it upon herself and made this IEP checklist. So that's in the folder. We had a whole PD that was run by my speech therapist and a lead teacher. So the agenda is there to work on that. And our accommodations and modifications is an example here of that piece of the IEP, kind of streamlining it for all the preschool students, some things you can pull from for any student. So just a bank there. And then this year, every classroom was given an iPad for data collection, so that goes along for the IEP goals. And a lot of the teachers are using it now. This is just an example. Many teachers are using the app TallyFlex on their iPads to collect the data on certain behaviors, long-term goals for kids. And it's easy for the teachers to take the data versus the paper for finding it all. And, you know, when you're dealing with 3- and 4-year-olds, it's difficult to manage it all. So they keep it in one space. The paraprofessional can go over and click something. The teacher can go over and click something. So it's been really helpful in terms of coming to team meetings with data to present on the student. So that also goes along with the new IEP. Any questions?
Pete?
It's nice to see that we're able to get more and more data. I know it's hard to make decisions and know how we're progressing without data, and I think it's great that we've been able to. It will apply to all of the presentations today. Start to grow the amount of data we have in our decision making and seeing how kids are progressing. Mm-hmm. My favorite question for Kara every year is how are we doing? Have we made progress in making any of that data available to families directly, or how's that going?
Yeah, I could speak more to elementary and middle. I don't know about preschool as much. I defer to Shannon on
so we
access to the data.
Yeah, so we present it individually to families during conferences. We don't do a whole, because it's so individualized at our level. Mm-hmm. So we didn't do a whole school-wide.
Yeah, I didn't really mean school-wide, I meant individual.
Yeah, so individual-wise, my teachers at conference time or IEP meeting time, they are presenting the individual information. So in November, it's our baseline data that we're reporting to the parents on at conference time, and then report cards. Our report cards are aligned to this data specifically, so they're getting the data then, and then again in March at conference time, an update, and then in June.
Right. Yeah, the report cards in general can be hard as a parent, I think, to decipher, because I think a lot of it's like standards aligned or whatever, and you look at it like your head explodes.
In terms of the literacy data for the Haggerty, we are very specific. Letter identification. I mean, it's basic at our letter identification sounds. Mm-hmm. So it's like 25 out of 26, or those things. So
we are, just trying to get better. We've improved, but we could still get better. We switched our provider for our data collection and are trying to create our dashboard for next year to Open Architects. We have an onboarding meeting coming up. We're pretty impressed with the things that they can do. So we're hoping we'll have an even better access for parents and for teachers in viewing our in-district data. So
that's great.
That's coming up. More to come on that.
And then one of the things that we heard about in the last school meeting from Ms. Manzi is how great PD goes for her team and how much they love it. I always hear mixed things
really
about
nice.
PD. I'm just curious, is your PD as successful as Ms. Manzi's? Because she appears to be like the gold star for PD.
I'd say my PD is pretty successful.
Good.
I have a lot of teacher-led PD. So as it I'm kind of a standalone, for PD, so I have to do my pairs and the teachers. So I have to rely on, and I'm helping out in a lot of the other schools right now. So I have to rely on my teachers, which is great because I think if teacher led, then what better than that, So I have lead teachers who take it off, my therapists who are very strong. So they do a lot of the PD.
That's great. No, it's good to hear, we're giving people PD they want versus,
Right.
And we met more frequently this year with our PD committee, so we had reps from every level, and Doyle was represented as well with elementary, middle, high, just talking about just different interests that people have, and then sharing the PD brochure that we have in draft form. And yeah, Doyle was pretty enthusiastic about the PD that's offered specific to Doyle, and the request was to keep the paraprofessionals at Doyle as well, because sometimes paraprofessionals will get teased out for more general topics, but I think it's such a tight-knit community down there. It's nice to keep everybody together. So that's our plan for next year.
Great. Shannon, I would say just thank you for all the work that goes in. I know your population is more varied than most little guys. And I know it's probably hard to get a measure of each one, sort of as you already described. And two of your classes aren't even in the Doyle building. Like they're they're over in maths. He's taking care of them, but they're not at your fingertips. But I know that sort of the way that you have worked with others to pull the curriculum as much as you can, sort of back into the earlier ages. It might not be evident, I think, on like day one, but I think sure enough, like they have to just carry whatever small piece of it in with them into kindergarten, into first grade. And this is year one, but I have to believe that I think our kindergarten teachers and even our early elementary are going to see sort of the benefits that you're instilling today, even if that's just how you approach like rug time or, I know it's got to be there. I think all the studies show that the earlier we get to kids and teach them sort of some of these methods, the better. So thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
Because I know it hasn't been a small task to adapt that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Anything else?
Thanks, Shannon.
All right.
Thank you, Shannon.
you.
Appreciate it. Next, we welcome the elementary principals.
Who gets the comfy chair?
So our slideshow is connected to the other one.
Yeah, it's in the same deck, Ian, as the other
Here
one.
to talk about the math.
Really advanced students.
I'm going to go tell Ian. Just
Really made a
go.
lot of gains this year.
We should just do that sometime. Everyone just present on each other's like slides.
We're really aggressive students.
The older
Guys are great.
How's the third graders doing? Math
They're
7.
doing seventh grade math.
We're doing the work for the Doyle.
Yes.
There we go.
You have the remote in front of you, I think.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us to share a little bit about our school improvement plans. We are excited to share on what has been, I think, a really successful year, working toward these goals and lots of things. So,
Brian, so I'm sorry to interrupt you. Would you mind if, for the people that might be watching, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sorry, got carried away there. Started.
I mean, we just assume everybody knows who we are, but Tiffany Back, I'm the principal at Greenwood.
Brian Schmidt, principal at Walton.
Matt Carter, principal at Woodville.
TJ Liberty, principal at Allbale.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Anything else I'm forgetting? Okay, so I'll get us started with our first goal. So this goal is focused on incorporating the shifts in literacy instruction to include practices supported by the science of reading. And I believe about a month ago, our reading specialist came and presented some reading growth data at school committee and spoke in some detail about the growth we've seen over the course of the year. The main data point we use to measure reading growth for our students is called the DIBBLES. And it's a really basic, quick test to see if a kid is picking up the basic skills they need to learn to read. And this data that we have on this slide is a summary of the DIBBLES assessment for the kindergartners, first graders, and second graders across the district. And each big row represents a grade, kindergarten, first and second. And then each multicolored bar within each row from the top down represents the beginning of year data for the entire district, the middle of year assessment data for the district, and then the end of year data. So if you look at the kindergarten row, for example, you'll see as we move through the year, working from the top to the bottom, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, those higher risk categories, the red and the yellow, or the partially meeting the benchmark or not meeting the benchmark, those groups are shrinking. So we're moving kids into the green and the blue categories where they are at less risk of having difficulty learning to read. And that's true in all three of these really, critical grades, times when kids are learning the basics of reading. So that data is, fantastic, and our reading specialists, I know, shared more with you last time. Some of the ways that that we think contributed to this. One really big part of it is our work with the Hill for Literacy. So we've partnered this year, and we did last year as well, with the Hill for Literacy, a really reputable consultant that works with a bunch of different school districts and does excellent work helping districts improve their practices in literacy, incorporating shifts with the science of reading. They worked this year with our entire reading specialist team, providing frequent professional development so that all of the reading specialists and interventionists in all of our schools are now truly expert or relative experts on what they call their 10-step small group reading intervention lesson plan. So when they work with a small group of kids that's struggling to learn to read, they're implementing a plan that is shown to be useful, and they're all doing it together, and they've really learned a lot about how to make it work. So that's been a huge success. Those consultants have also worked with us, coaching the principals on how to give good feedback to our teachers about this. They've worked with our teachers, modeling how they can do this in the classroom with small groups. We also had, Pete, you mentioned PD that people appreciate. One thing that went really well at the elementary level this year is we had the Hill and our curriculum leaders run a PD, taking a book, a decodable reader, and designing a lesson plan with that book for a small group in their class. And I know the teachers that I talked to after that PD were like, this was awesome. Like, I just built something that I'm going to go use, next week with a group of my kids. So that was a huge success. And then lastly, we continue to improve our data team structure. So our meeting structure for how we look at this data, how we decide which kids get the type of reading support that they need and when. We're continuing to improve upon that and make it more effective. So I think with Goal 1, we've done a really good job this year, and I will hand it to Tiffany to speak about Goal 2.
Sure. And we're sticking with literacy, but we're moving on to Goal 2 about rich and challenging curriculum. Last year, we launched our new curriculum, the EL curriculum, and we were calling it Year 0, so this year's Year 1. I think everybody agrees, whether we're calling it Year 0, Year 1, or Year 2, having a year under everyone's belts has made this year so much easier for people to implement. I know my first grade team they were thinking about last year, they only got to a certain point in the curriculum, and this year they're like, we don't understand how we didn't get further. And it's like, well, because you know what's there. And a lot of this has been this work that we've been doing with the school improvement plan goal. We wanted to make sure people had the resources available, that they knew where to find things they needed, that we were working across buildings to make sure that we were being aligned and having conversations and sharing things that worked with each other. Can you move to the next slide? If you look at the data that we chose for this one, rather than the DIBELS, the iReady assessment is a little better indicator of the work that's going on during those EL core blocks. And for this year, and last year too, right now, 3rd and 4th grade were the only ones we were using iReady reading with, but starting next year, we'll be using iReady at all the grade levels, so we'll be able to get some more data. And what you can see from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the beginning of the year is a little faded out, and then end of the year. But for grade 3, 83% of the students at the end of the year fell within grade level expectations. They were where we were expecting them to be, and this is district-wide. And 74% of students made typical growth. So they've made a year's worth of growth in a year, which is what we would expect. And then in 4th grade, 71% of students fell within the grade level expectations by the end of the year, with 68% of students making typical growth. So very pleased with the results that we're seeing with this. Some of the things that supported this work are similar to what Brian talked about with Goal 1. Something I do want to mention is, we've had the EL leaders, the leader team, so we've had teacher leaders that in each of the schools from different grade levels they came together in the mornings of the PD days to kind of talk about what's going on in their schools, to find ways to do things better, to share things back out with them. That's been very successful. And so much so that it's going to morph next year into curriculum leaders, because not just literacy needs this, but math needs it as well. Even though we've had IM in place for a few years now, we still want to make sure we're doing that good work and continuing to develop it coming from the teachers who are in the classroom. That's a really important aspect of this. And then the other thing I wanted to mention were the curriculum visits. I think that was on the other slide as well. So we've been doing curriculum visits with the curriculum coordinators. Kara's been part of them when she's able. The principal in the building has been part of it. Kind of going into those EL core blocks or foundational skills blocks and seeing the good practices that are there and really naming the great things that are going on, and then kind of what are our next steps based on what we are already seeing in the classrooms. I know Greenwood, I'm sure it's true at every elementary school, but people are used to people coming into their classrooms, and teachers love to talk about what's going on with their students. So they appreciate having these conversations and having the opportunity to really delve into, hey, I noticed that you're doing this. What's going on with that? And then being able to explain what's going on. So it's been a really successful couple of years with EL. And just, we're not going to drop the work we're doing with this, because I think that's another important thing I always like to bring up about school improvement plan goals. You don't want to have a one-year goal and then move on to something else. You want to really continue to build that work. It's really important. And then Matt and TJ are tag teaming the 3rd goal.
That's what we do.
All right. So school improvement plan goal 3 really drills down on the individual student. So it builds on a lot of what has already been mentioned, right? Our work with Hill for Literacy. I think that kind of this goal gets to more of that small group and that intentionality and systematic approach. It is happening kind of with our reading team. They've received a lot of high quality PD from the Hill team this year. They've been supported by our curriculum coordinators and curriculum coaches who have done a fantastic job in kind of that work and supporting them. I really feel like that group is a very cohesive unit now. And I think the work throughout the district speaks for itself with them, right down to working together to collect end of year data. I think it's been a phenomenal kind of team approach. It's also added a lot more reliability to our data and our collection, right? We now look at it across the board. It's not just the reading teachers at Woodville. They wouldn't do this, right? They would never cook the books necessarily, but now we have this reliability of different people kind of, going in and assessing kids, and we have a true picture of where students are at, which is really, really awesome. In terms of in the classroom, we've had some teachers really embrace this practice as well. You heard Brian mention kind of that 10-step kind of lesson plan. It may not be 10 steps, but they may be doing the first 3. And they're definitely kind of working with the small groups intentionally, again, on like different skills and practices that may be lacking in the Dibbles report. So these students that are in the classroom may not be seen through small group reading intervention or through our reading teachers, but they're definitely students that may have gaps, and that we need to kind of, fill those gaps, and if we don't, then they may be students that fall. So we want to be kind of intentional with that practice in the classroom as well. In terms of some of the other things here that are mentioned, we've really refined our data meeting structures, right? We're definitely looking at kind of what we're doing in terms of data collection and how we're using it. And then last but not least, definitely being intentional with our schedules. Our schedules are in better shape kind of than they've ever been in terms of what we're doing and how we're supporting students with our blocks and with our minutes and our time and being accountable to that. I know one last thing, I've said it before and I'll say it again, like I do feel like this group here works really well together, but I do feel also like beyond just us, we also kind of work well within those grade level teams and those grade level bands to support students across the Wakefield Public Schools. I think kind of post-COVID, that was kind of an expectation that came in. It's something that's continued, and it's really led to some really cohesive kind of conversation and things going on across the town. So I'm pleased with that. I think it's kind of showing up now in our data more. I think teachers are able to talk about like specific lessons of where they're at, and their colleagues are in a very close spot too. And students are also having similar experiences. I had a parent share with me that they were at a birthday party, and a student at Dolbear and a student at Woodville were talking about a lesson that they were both doing in school, which I'm not saying wouldn't have happened before, but it's kind of neat that it is happening now. Which I think speaks to the work that we're doing here now in Wakefield.
And kind of to add on to what Matt was saying and kind of to echo things that Karen and Doug have been so passionate about is consistency, right? And making sure that a student at any one of our schools is getting the same exposure, the same curriculum that they would in any school that they were in. And I think that that's really, we're starting to see the fruits of that labor with regards to shifts that we've been making. Matt had highlighted the consistency in the data team structures that we're creating, looking at consistency that we're using as building-based administration and intervention teams at looking at data and figuring out criteria for students to receive intervention. So once again, no matter what school you're at, we're all using the same kind of roadmap or guidelines or guideposts to determine how we provide intervention to students. Also along that lines, we have worked, as Matt, Tiffany, and Brian had talked about in their presentation, the work that we did with the Hill for Literacy and how valuable that partnership has been for us. We're making these shifts. We're so fortunate to work with them and to have their expertise and their guidance as we make these shifts. And our reading team, I think, has benefited most from that partnership because they're getting the coaching and the PD that they may not have gotten, 5-10 years ago, not from a lack of trying, but just a lack of access. And so the cohesion that we're seeing amongst the teachers, the grade levels of schools, the intervention is really taking us to the next level. And lastly, when I talk about intervention, I also want to, mention the resources that we're using, not only for Hill for Literacy and using that 10-step model, intervention literacy model. We also have in our math intervention, we use a research approved program called Bridges. And that is another thing that we're using to create consistency, standards aligned. Our math interventionists have had training in this area through our STEM coordinator and our coach, along with the work that our humanities coordinator and coaches are working with too. So I know I've said this at every meeting that I've been to, and I'm going to keep echoing it and thanking this committee and our town for supporting the budgets and supporting the work that we're doing here. We would not be where we are, and we're not able to go to where we can be without your support. And we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. We're starting to see the outcomes that we're looking for, and we're excited about the next steps for future years to come and what Wakefield can do.
That's great. Questions? Pete?
Every time our curriculum leaders come in here, they talk about the coordination amongst all the schools, and it's great to hear it, that it's actually happening. And I'll just thank all of our administrators here today. We're very lucky to have such qualified administrators in the district. It's something I've said to Doug privately many times. I think our students are extremely lucky to have such qualified administration among all of our schools. So thank you.
Ken? I agree with what you said, that when you have goals changing every year or different plans happening every year, that you'll never accomplish anything because you're constantly shifting from one initiative to another. So, like, you just presented 3 goals with 3 action steps or 2 action steps per goal. I guess my question is, like, looking back at the last year, or even back the last 2 years, you got to isolate, like, which is the most, like, the one most important thing that you've done that's this last year that's different than in the past, that you would say, we should be doing this 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What would it be?
I feel like there's a couple of different ways you can answer that question. The thing that popped immediately into my mind when you said something that we've done that's been very high impact, I just think the focus that we have taken toward foundational skills literacy instruction has been huge at the elementary level. And I was thinking about it while Shannon was talking about the Doyle and the work that they're doing with Hegarty. So now we're getting a cohort of students who are coming up to the elementary schools with that work in Hegarty. We are definitely seeing the difference. You know, when 3rd grade brought in foundations for the first time last year, you know, it was a bit of a struggle, it was a bit of a change. But this year, the 3rd grade teachers received students who had had that renewed commitment to foundations and Hegarty, and they saw a big difference in what was going on. So I think that work has been really important, very high impact, and something that, it's one of those things where you're like, we should have been doing this a long time ago, but when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
Other things?
Yeah, I think it's really our intentionality with K-2 and how we're addressing any needs in that K-2 population. I think a lot of times I talk a lot about, like, you know, results, right? And those results we often point to, like, shared results, right? So MCAS comes up, right? And we point to, like, 3rd and 4th grade, but I think sometimes just coming back down and looking at, like, K-2 and how we're, like, treating kind of the student populations and what the data is telling us at that level, and how we're creating kind of learning opportunities for students that may be struggling. I think that's like a continual process, and I don't think there'll ever never be a conversation there. But I think the resources we use there, the strategy we use there, the intervention work we do, whether it be 2-day, 3-day, 5-day a week, the resources we bring in, the people we hire, right? I feel like in that pocket, like, there's a lot of critical work that happens and a lot of critical decisions. And I think for me, that's where my head goes when I think about kind of your question.
Okay.
I agree with the focus on early literacy. We've never been, I think maybe in the past, in a lot of school districts with reading specialists, it was kind of like, there wasn't a lot of PD for them because it was assumed, like, well, you're reading specialists, you know how to teach kids how to read. But, like, that's not necessarily the case. Now we have staff that are employing the same model that's really effective, that they know really well. And I think we just need to keep going down that road.
Yeah.
I think it also can't be an understated, like, it can't be stated enough how much we've asked teachers to shift. And when I say teachers, I don't just mean classroom teachers, our interventionists, you know, all the individuals, the adults that have contact with kids. We've asked them to make, you know, multiple shifts in their instructional practices really since COVID. And although COVID feels like a million years ago, it wasn't, right? And so what we're seeing is the fruits of that, the results are we're seeing the results of that. And I think that has helped to create buy-in and a sense of consistency. So the structure that we have, that we talked about, Pete, that you talk about the curriculum leaders coming in, the reason why it's successful is because we all have a common vision. And I think that comes from our work collaboratively, our work with Doug and Kara, our work with our curriculum team, our work with our teachers, that we all are coming from the same place and want the same thing. and it's about how to keep pushing kids forward. So, Kev, when you talk about, which goals, I really think, pointing to that calibration, pointing to that consistent vision was what driving this district and us forward.
Thank you.
If I could just mention one more thing too, Kara mentioned it kind of, in passing a little earlier, but I do think our work with like that Open Architects platform is going to be a game changer for us. So I would ask the committee to kind of to support that work, because I feel like the one piece is like that database where we can go into and pull information year over year for kids that's consistent is going to be like really helpful for us. I had a recent parent meeting where I was talking about like student, like, academic, just achievement in general. And like, I had to go to like 4 different spots to pull information, right? And like, just being able to go into one platform and kind of click year over year and kind of share Dibble's information from 2 years ago compared to this year, I think that's going to be really helpful as well when we start talking about kind of the services that kids have received, the supports they've received, and then whether bigger conversations need to happen in regards to maybe special education and beyond. So I think for us, this Open Architects thing is really promising. I know I've shared it with our ILT, I think at Woodville in particular, but I know in other schools we're definitely excited for kind of that and what it could do to help drive kind of the tracking of student progress year over year.
Okay, thank you.
Alex?
Just looking at the iReady data and talking about the number of students that are on grade level, on or above grade level, do you see that the iReady assessments themselves are a close match to what you see? And you mentioned MCAS results, what you expect of like meeting, exceeding expectations on MCAS. Do those seem to line up, or does it seem to be a little bit different when you look at those numbers?
They align quite closely, I think. I may get the terminology off a little bit, but I think the correlation is like above 90% between iReady and MCAS. Does that sound?
Yeah. So iReady has a neat function now where you can actually have like the predictability, and you can pull that. And I think what will be interesting is when we actually get those numbers in the summer to actually answer your question. Maybe I'll come back and answer your question directly to see what that correlation is, because we're going to have a really good sense for it this year. What I find is it is a pretty good indicator. I've typically relied more on the math than the reading because I feel like I'm have more practice in that and can kind of predict it a little bit better. But in terms of your question, I think we will be able to answer that very accurately soon.
And I think within that, the iReady platform, it has that section for projected proficiency.
Yes, that's what I'm speaking about, yeah.
And it has that, but then there's the question about not the high amount of written response kind of scoring that's done with MCAS, so it's tough to see that prediction. I just was kind of seeing what your take on that was. Then the other question I had was, looking at, you talked about like the curriculum visits.
Yes.
And the data meetings, I think I might have asked this when the literacy interventionists were here. But what are they? Can you explain to us a little bit more about like what the data meetings look like, who's involved, how long are those data meetings? Is it grade level? How many are there members of the ILT team in there? Yeah. Are there coaches involved? What that looks like, and then what the feedback you might have, and the format of feedback you give to teachers from those curriculum visits.
So, I mean, there's going to be a long answer to this. It's an evolving process. This year, we definitely made a shift to our data team meeting formats. I think each building had kind of their own format they went after. But I think the one commonality, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we had been using the data team meetings as more a function of which children are the reading interventionists going to work with, which children are going to be in small groups for intervention. And this year, the shift was more toward how are we using the data on all students to find what all students need and what teachers can focus on and target for that. So going into the data team meetings, we already had the Dibbles data, we had the iReady data, we already had a sense of who our highest need students were and who was going to be needing to work with the reading specialist or the interventionist. The question at the data team meetings came more of, what are the classroom teachers going to be doing during WIN time? What are their who's going to be in their small groups? What are those small groups going to target? And what are we going to be able to do with them? So that was one big shift with that.
And to give you a sense of like just structurally what it looks like. So those 3 bars you saw on the slide that I talked about, those are when we have data team meetings, the beginning of year, middle of year, and end of the year. And Tiffany spoke to the shift. We've tried different groups of people being involved with those meetings, but ideally, I think we would say, for reading, anyone who is helping a child learn to read should be at that meeting. So that means both classroom teachers, reading specialists, interventionists, special education teachers, principals, reading coaches, reading curriculum coordinator, our whole team that's working collectively toward that goal of reading proficiency should be in that meeting. And we look at the data together and kind of like Tiffany said, start big picture and then zoom in as specifically as we can to try to decide which kids need help with which skills and when they can get that help.
Right, because a piece of that is looking at those bars. You know, you have the kids that are in the blue or the green, they are meeting benchmark or exceeding benchmark, but that doesn't mean there aren't sub areas within there that they still need to focus on. So I think it's looking past that big picture of the composite score and kind of looking at those sub areas and using those to make small groups as well. And not just thinking, oh, that child's at benchmark, they're all set.
Right.
We want all children to grow.
It's also a space for our coaches, coordinators, and interventionists to provide teachers with support around what to target, what resources to use. So, you know, it's also an opportunity to get people put their minds together. If I have a student that's struggling with fluency, what type of strategies could I use to help them with that? Students having difficulty with, 3-digit multiplication, 3-digit addition and subtraction, what are some strategies? And what the coaches and coordinators can do is help dig into the data points, what you referenced, Alex, iReady, and looking at those diagnostics and saying, okay, let's dig deeper and look at what are the domains that they're struggling and what are some of the activities that can help target that. So it really provided a space, and we're looking to evolve that even next year to see how we can create better space and time to have those conversations. So it's, like I said, as educators, we're never fine with what we're doing. We're always looking what we could do to make improvements.
It is hard to do though. We always feel shortchanged and there's never enough time to kind of talk about all of it. It's a challenge, so that's why it's something we're working on.
And I think one of the sticking points this year was making sure we're having these data team meetings in a timely enough manner that it's not that, oh, the data has now become a little stale, or the teachers have already made decisions about their groups. We want to be on top of that. So that's what I mean when it's an evolving process.
I think in each of our buildings too, like our teachers have enough experience and have worked well enough as a group that they're talking about data beyond like just with us. Like they're talking about it in their PLCs. They're talking about it at lunch. Like they're very well aware of where kids are and what kids need. So I think we've definitely evolved, year over year. I do think we are looking at kind of the more formal structures for beginning, middle, and end, and trying to figure out how to like best serve the needs of kind of everyone at the table, right? So then they can best serve the students, when we get there. But I think it's a process that first step is really talking about it, right? And then like trying to fine tune it and then coming up with a plan and revisiting that plan, and we're well within that space.
I can just jump in on your question around the curriculum visits. So those were new this year. We're looking to expand next year across other subject areas. But it's really been, like Tiffany said, principals, coordinators, myself, we kind of look at it as our opportunity to learn more, to see implementation in action. So we'll typically schedule them around, because we have everyone's schedule of when they're teaching ELA. So we'll pop into different classrooms, and then typically it's not individual feedback, they're not evaluative. So we'll typically follow those up with just a broad email, kind of like a highlight reel, like love seeing these routines, love seeing this, we saw a lot of that. So it just kind of reinforces, like, as we're going into these different rooms, like, everyone's on the same page and consistent in their approach, and we just try to find ways to just highlight the consistency. If you want to add to that, but I think that captures it.
Melissa.
Good.
So I just wanted to ask, I feel like we have a pretty good understanding of what supports are available for students, and I love that you guys are using Bridges. It's a great program. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the accelerated learning opportunities and how you identified those during the meetings and how those get implemented.
So one of the things that we look at, Melissa, is looking at what resources we have available, using iReady, using STMath, DIBBLES, and looking at what the areas of strength are. And so, for example, with STMath, it's one of the areas that we've been able to kind of evolve and create some acceleration for students because it's self-paced, because it's independent. You know, a lot of times, as we know, we as classroom teachers, are focused on how to help students kind of get to the next level. A lot of our focus is on students that are struggling, understandably so, right? Because we want to push them on. And so trying to figure out with the acceleration side of it is, with math, we do STMath. With literacy, we'll look at our iReady reading. We'll look at Boost. So there's some programs that we're currently using that are independent based that help students begin to push the next level, but in a way that's meaningful. So for example, with STMath, the last thing you want to do is say, all right, you're a grade 2 student, you might be performing at a grade 3. We're going to give you, multiplication because we think you can handle it. But there might be gaps someplace around there. So using the resources we have to build a larger foundation of understanding of a concept in a way that's challenging, enriching to students is something that we're actively working with. We also, talk to our Hill for Literacy partners around how best to support students that are not only struggling with foundational skills, but also students that need to be challenged in that space too. How do we continue to push them? So, to answer your question directly, it's really about, maximizing the resources that we have and helping students to access those at an independent level, not only just with the teacher.
So not doing small groups for kids.
Well, I was actually going to build on to his answer because there are some of these independent learning opportunities, but like iReady does have materials that teachers can use with their small groups. And this kind of goes back to that shift in the data team meetings of not just looking at a small group of students that have very specific needs or have a lot of needs. It's looking at all the students in your class, determining what the needs are, and then figuring out how to group them. And I know a number of teachers have been working this year during WIN time to really bring those acceleration groups in and to find ways to challenge kids, particularly in math. I've seen a couple of those going on. I walked into one second grade classroom and I was watching a small group and I was like, wow, this seems really advanced for second grade. And the teacher said, well, they are. This is my challenge group. I'm giving them these things. But, so just giving teachers the opportunity and the time and remembering we're not just working with kids who are lagging in skills. Everybody's got something that they need to work on to be able to grow. So, but iReady does have materials that can be used with small groups as well at all levels.
I think it's the area that we probably struggle the most to meet. I think a lot of focus ends up, going to, students who need more, right? And then when we're talking about like small group during WIN, definitely those students that are kind of cuspy that could go and end up in a reading group or end up in a math intervention group. So if I'm being honest with you, it's definitely the group that I feel like I struggle with the most in terms of like supporting. So beyond like the independent practice or things that we can pull or some technology pieces, it's definitely a space where I feel like we have to be more creative and figure out kind of how we can meet those students' needs. So that would be my honest reflection to you about where we're at. You probably picked up on that because I glossed over it a bit in my piece. Good catch. But I feel like that's where, as a growth point, definitely for Woodville in particular.
I totally agree.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah, that's always like when I said there's never enough time. Those are the kids there's never enough time to plan for, because we're so bent out of shape worrying about these students who are so much lower. But I would also add, at least on the math side, we have had some accelerated groups that we've run, and we have a really nice bank of resources that our STEM coordinators have curated with different fun challenges that are very exploratory and kids have gotten really into and gotten excited about during WIN time. But I wholeheartedly agree with Matt. Like it's a challenge and it's something that we need to continue to try to improve with.
Do you think that that impacts the typical growth percentages that you've seen? Like, or is the typical growth percentages that you're seeing, the kids that are getting those interventions are growing, and then the kids that don't need as much intervention are just kind of like staying where they expected?
I haven't seen that.
Is that?
I haven't seen that correlation. Or at least it hasn't stood out yet. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would say, class to class, there's definitely some trends, right, that you can see. But in terms of like looking at a grade span, like 4 classrooms, I don't necessarily see that. But I do think there are students who start out in one position and don't necessarily grow at the rate we would expect. So when we talk about like a full year, right, when you saw the data that was shared up there, right, there is, 19% of students that are, not meeting kind of that grade level span, right? So those are students obviously that we talk more about, but to your point, like, it doesn't stand out as like a red flag.
I would just one other point when we think about students who would benefit from more challenge. I do think that IM, our core math curriculum, and EL, our core literacy curriculum, do a pretty good job of offering opportunities for expanding and thinking and kind of like raising the ceiling of what students can do just in the tier 1 lesson. So I think that is a relative strength for us. It's just the quality of those curricula that we use.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I would say thank you. This has been very academic. I would also say each one of you has a incredibly positive culture going on in your schools. I see it every time I talk to kids that my kids interact with, when I talk to other parents. So as much as we talk about data and numbers, kids love to come to school, and we need to get them in the seats to do the learning that we just got done sort of hammering on. And so thank you for creating those environments where learning is such a positive experience. You often sort of, what do they say, you plant the tree for the seed that you don't, or plant the seed for the tree that you won't sit in its shade. So, you have the Galvin coming up behind you in the high school. You're setting the foundation for these kids working together so that sort of they have a consistent student in seats when they get to the Galvin. And I know probably Shannon does the same thing for you as we talk to Haggerty, right? So it's such a thread. When you talk, TJ, about sort of cohesion, it came up in the NEASC accreditation, right? So that this thread that exists throughout our district is across the entire landscape. And so it's so great to sort of hear it talked about and hear it from outside people, and that you see it with the teacher leaders that you sort of sit with. So, and the last thing I would mention is all of your work in the curriculum. I heard somebody talk about how having all of your schools be so cohesive, it has to help the curriculum coordinators sort of plan. And for them, it's more data. I know you're a data person, Matt. So no wonder you're we'll champion Kara's open.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. Everyone should be behind that.
So it does. It really helps when you guys are all on the same page. It helps the whole sort of ecosystem be better, and we know when curriculum is going in the right direction. We know when it's sort of coming off the rails a little bit. So just, I think I say it every time you guys sit at the table. Thank you for working so well together. It only helps students. It only helps your colleagues. It only helps us, and it makes our choices easier. So thank you so much. And thank you to the teachers, because when you talk about advanced, enriched, sort of, I see a lot of it in the classroom. It's really hard to get time for groups of kids when you need to give them some acceleration. I think the superstars there are the teachers in the classroom, because they can steal 5 minutes, they can steal 10. And so they're doing wonderful things on their own. And so just whatever we can do to sort of support them and sort of share their resources to be more successful in that space, even though they are shining stars as it stands. So just thank you all.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we welcome Meg Webb and Amy McLeod, secondary review. In the fall, Amy and Meg, you guys can go first.
I believe we've said that every year, and it hasn't happened yet. So we are. It's on film. We are starting first next year. Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Megan Webb. I'm the principal at the Galvin Middle School, and I'm Amy McLeod. I'm the principal at the high school. Meg and I did our slides together this year because our teams created our goals together, except for the third goal, which we'll separate for that. But our goals are similar, and as Tiffany said earlier, they built off of last year. So I feel like this year's goals is just sort of an evolution of where we were last year. So starting with quality teaching, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I think for our quality teaching goal, we really looked to enhance teaching through looking for resources within. Because we've heard from teachers that, and we know that teachers learn best from one another. They learn best from observing each other's practices, having conversations about those practices, and then developing them into practices that they can use themselves. So our goals really hinged on action steps that were mostly about teachers observing teachers, teachers working with other teachers. So when you look at our data and what we're presenting, it's similar to the things that you've heard earlier tonight from the other levels. Having learning walks happening at both the middle school and the high school, where either a curriculum coordinator is leading that learning walk, or an entire PLC may be going on a learning walk, or the Galvin, it might be a teacher team visiting another team. But in addition to that, I think the part that we've really tried to do more of at the high school is getting peer observation so that you're not going on an entire learning walk, but one teacher makes a plan with another teacher to go visit their classroom. And we really try to encourage people to get outside of their departments. And because I know either, the middle school teams can get very siloed, at the high school departments can get very siloed. So just that understanding and trying to get into each other's classrooms. And if you look at some of the links there, different departments handle it different ways. Some of the departments tracked it, and so that they could all see it, so that we held each other accountable, so that every single one of us in the department committed to doing one observation of someone else. And then other departments just kind of kept notes of their peer observation visit. And someone asked the question before about what happened to that data. Same as Kara answered, that data was not reflected back observationally, but that was more for the data for the teacher visiting to look at strategies, to look at techniques, to be able to ask questions, right? I noticed you did this thing with a student who I have in my class who doesn't respond that way, so that I could come to that teacher later and say, what have you done differently with that student that works for you instructionally? How can I support them? So in addition to that, also under Goal 1, I think we spoke about the success of this year's PD. Not only our half-day PD sessions, which really focused on Standard 1, which was more about thinking about curricular resources, right? So getting all of our teachers on board and really expert at Empower Writing, for example, or now that illustrative math has been at the high school for a few years, really nailing down the scope and sequence of the maps so that every teacher has the resources and is on the same page with what they are teaching. So I'll get to this one in 1 second. We're also yeah, no, it's good. It's good. You leave that one there. That's fine. That's we're also excited about the foundation for this next year's PD half days. So now that we feel like the foundation has been set with solid curriculum, we're really going to be able to build next year, looking at instructional tools, laying the foundation for meeting the needs of all students. And that was a need that we addressed in our November PD day. We scheduled a Galvin High School PD day together. The focus was overall meeting the needs of diverse learners, and we had teachers, inside presenters, teachers, and outside presenters come in who could offer workshops on anything they felt like they had a strength or that they had an expertise in to teach to other teachers. And then teachers were able to sign up for those workshops. So the link there will give you the list of workshops that we offered that day. And the list was varied, and it focused on everything from working with AL students to working with students who have anxiety to, how to practice mindfulness in your classroom, and even teachers supporting themselves. As we know, teacher burnout is high, working with such a diverse population of kids now, and teachers being asked to do so many things. So teachers had choice. And again, I think it just solidified this idea that Goal 1 for us was really about teachers helping teachers to grow quality teaching practices. So I know Meg's excited, so we'll go to the, So, we did do a post-PD survey. This was after the November date. As you can see there, that teachers very much agree or strongly agree that their practice was helped and grown by the workshops that they did during that day, learning from one another. So our plan moving forward is to continue this next year in some form. And there are just some of the pictures of the middle school and the high school teachers working together during the professional development that we're able to offer this year. So that is goal 1, and I'll turn it to Meg to talk about goal 2.
Okay, so goal 2 for both of us really centered around alignment and particularly around assessment, but it sort of grew to encompass more than just assessment. I think if you you just heard from the elementary principals who have coordinated across those schools, but in both of our schools, we try to make that kind of coordination happen within the school. Our schools kind of are almost as complex as all of those schools coming together. We're lucky they're housed under one roof, but we have different teams, we have different departments, and getting further towards the point where if you're a parent whose student is on this team, and then your friend is a parent whose student is on this other team, you're going to have a fairly similar experience in terms of what your child is getting. And that's something that is difficult, I think, at the secondary level, because people are very departmentalized, people are very siloed in lots of ways. So this goal was really centered around furthering the work to align across teams and within departments. And so that came in the form of comparable assessments within departments and across teams, and then really using those assessments to do data analysis, much like what you heard from the elementary schools, to inform teaching and to create interventions. So you can click at your leisure on any of these links. I'll say a little bit about what they are. We didn't want to have 1,000 slides, so you can explore if it's something that really interests you. But at the high school, there was a lot of work around, and at the middle school, but creating shared rubrics so that we're assessing assignments in a way that's similar from class to class. You could say specific examples from the middle school. Those rubrics in PLC time or meeting time among teachers created a lot of really interesting conversations where there were differences, right? So if two teachers looked at one math problem and one gave it a 2, one gave it a 3, the conversation about why one teacher thought it was a 2 and one was a 3 was really kind of the magic, I think, of that rubric creation and then the discussion around it, because that's the whole point, right? So you can look at the same thing and see it very differently to very qualified educators. And so I think the power of those conversations and then what netted out from those of like, okay, we have to agree that what we're looking at qualifies as this or this, and have a deeper discussion about what we're seeing in it. That was really exciting. I saw a lot of that in the PLCs that I was a part of this year. We also, at both levels, have a growing number of assessments that we can pull from. You heard about a lot of those at the elementary level. We, at the middle school, use iReady. We've used Common Lit, but we're moving to iReady for ELA as well. But this year we looked at Common Lit. And looked at various, I think, IXL in the high school, looking at how do we look at a common set of data to make sure that, again, we're having conversations about how students are progressing across different teams and different departments. So if you want, you could click on any of those links to look at different examples of benchmark monitoring, and then different ways that teams celebrated growth and achievement, which was another facet of this goal. The first link, I've taken out all the names, so it's a little bit less exciting than it is in real life, but shows a particular math team. All the math teams did this year, but they publicly displayed the top scorers for the assessments, but also the top growers, which was really exciting. It's a practice that individual teachers had done, but the whole department decided to do it this year, because a lot of students who didn't get recognized before because they weren't the top achievers got their name kind of in lights and got recognition from the teacher, from the community, for making progress, which is something we also want to highlight. There's another really exciting slide if you are a fan of 5th grade data, which was an area for us that was really something we're watching very closely. Our iReady data, as it's coming in, and it's still coming in, for ELA is really, really promising. They've far exceeded the targets for growth. And when we talk about correlation to MCAS, there's hopeful promise there of something we've been working towards for a number of years, of just really trying to create that transition year in a way that
has a less of an impact on student achievement, which is something we've historically seen. And I think in both schools we've worked to use that common data to create groups, whether we call it WIN. At the middle school, there's math skills groups and other interventions for at-risk students at the high school. So not wildly dissimilar from what you heard from the elementary.
I would add too, and we didn't include this here, and I think I was here talking about it when we were talking about the catalog, the course catalog, right? Using that data as well. I think we've gotten much better at the high school using that data from assessments to help course scheduling and making sure students are placed where they belong so that they're challenged appropriately and they're also supported appropriately. So we didn't include that, but that's a big piece of the work that I think has improved greatly this year.
And just an example, and you saw examples that look a lot like this at the elementary level. When we look at iReady, we have the grades that finished math first were upper house, so 7 and 8. And lots of promising data here too. It doesn't really mean anything when you just look at it, but if you look at kind of the bottom in the parentheses, that's what the beginning of the year was, and then the bars at the top are end of year. So the green bar growing as significantly as it did, I think from 45% overall to 60%, and the red bar shrinking from 28 to 14% is what we want to see when we're looking at grade level data. 7th grade, which you'll hear much more about from my colleague Erin in a moment. This I thought you might want to see because you're about to hear a lot more about accelerated math, but we really see the impact of that accelerated program when we look at the change on the green bar from 46% to 62%, but particularly the striped green, which is mid or above grade level, going from 9% to 44%, which is like pretty astounding. And we think a pretty clear impact of very intentional programming in the 7th grade. Also the red shrinking from 22 to 12 is something we're proud of. Do I start with?
You start with
Oh,
your
scale, but
so
that's
we're being
me.
split on goal 3.
Yes. So our goal 3 was essentially the same, but we have very different programming to address the goal. At the middle school, we've been working, now we're going into our 3rd year of implementation of a WIN program that we spent a great deal of time planning and actually working off the elementary model to create. And we're going into our 3rd year with, I think, another really promising evolution, particularly in the lower house. And if you've been following the work, I can always say that if it's something that people are really like, you all know, you know the WIN work. In the upper house, we have a program that really breaks down it's a quarterly program that we use the data to group students for math and ELA intervention and then enrichment and other content areas, which addresses, some of the targets of acceleration and enriching students around subjects outside of the core tested subjects. So our goals around flexible grouping, intervention support, and enrichment activities really sit within that WIN model for us. So our goals coming into this year were to expand the intervention program into grade 6, for grades 7 and 8 to continue to refine the quarter and intervention cycle, and that for our upper house social emotional learning approach, to expand so that the counselors in the upper house could meet with every single student in the 7th and 8th grade throughout the quarters. So both Bonnie and Andrew, they saw every kid that they served within a really structured setting, which was exciting for them. We also worked pretty intentionally on how we were monitoring the outcomes for those students, just making sure that what we were putting all this work into was actually yielding some results for the students who were serving. And then building on this year, we were actually just meeting about this the other day. The 6th and 5th grade, really inspired by what was happening in the upper house. They have great models themselves, but wanted to really kind of zone in on this idea of a tighter intervention cycle. So they're moving to the quarter system and working across team, which essentially means that any teacher within those grades might serve any student within the grade based on the student's need, and not be limited to just the team that child happens to be assigned to. And that was something that I think in the lower house there was some hesitancy to do because it's just a much smaller, we tried to create those much smaller communities, but the success of the upper house inspired some risk taking, I think, for next year to try to make that happen. I also included a link to an executive functioning pilot that the Upper House is running next year, particularly our student support team, who researched and found this opportunity for, it'll be a small group of students, but kind of like group of students who, there's like the missing ingredient, right? As they're getting older, they're getting ready to go up to the high school, and there's that executive functioning piece is really a barrier for them. So we've always struggled to, like, where do we put that? How do we address that? And so there's a small team of student support staff members who want to tackle that, and we're hoping that helps a group of students who otherwise struggle academically when they shouldn't, if that makes sense, to be able to kind of unlock some of that potential.
Great. And so at the high school, for goal 3, for thinking about individualized student learning and what students need, for me, this goal is kind of foundational. Meeting kids where they're at, recognizing what their needs are, providing a safe and supportive environment for them, and then either challenging or supporting as needed as they go through the 4 years of high school, I think is something that I don't know that all high schools do well. And it's something that high schools need to do better at all the time. I think since COVID, this is a goal that the high school has worked hard on, and I'm really proud of where we've gotten over the last few years. I think our intervention model has gotten stronger and stronger, so that students are referred, that we have programs and people in place to support students who are referred, and we also have services that may be everything from just having a trusted adult, or knowing that there's a lunch group, or even knowing that there's somebody that you can check in with when you're having a moment where you need an adult, or you need a peer, even to be able to lean in on. And I think we have been able to identify and match our students with the support services that we have better and better every year. And I think that's due to a stronger, tighter intervention process. I think that we've continued to identify at-risk students more and more with our regular the implementation of regular surveys, whether those are anonymous or they are more like the signs of suicide, where kids are talking to adults, and really doing those baseline checks. And I know when this first started, folks in the community weren't sure how they felt about all these baseline checks, but I think all we need to do is look at the evidence in the data in our country now to know that it's important that we take the time out of the year to do these baselines, whether we're doing it 9 to 12, like the YRBS survey, or we're doing some of those surveys that are just geared to 9th or some of the grades. Again, identifying kids who are at risk, making sure that they have the supports that they need, and partnering them with the supports that we know we have in the building. And if we don't have those, working with community partners to get those. The third bullet is just a fun one, but I do think it speaks to sort of the feeling that kids have about the high school. We have kind of implemented a system now that if a student can find a trusted adult who will be willing to sponsor a club that it will even meet once a month when a teacher is there working with other kids after school, they can do that. So we've had everything. You heard it at graduation the other day, the Cheese Club mentioned, it was a fan favorite. But we've had everything, cheese clubs, gamers clubs, future lawyers clubs. The clubs that these kids are coming up with is unbelievable. And to me, it doesn't matter, right? We kind of snicker and laugh at the sort of the quirkiness of some of these clubs, but kids are finding safe spaces with one another, and they recognize that they can find safe spaces with one another that maybe aren't the norm, right? So it's awesome to have a state-recognized track team, right? But not everybody's going to fit into that kind of mold. So we have been able to expand this model so that kids are finding their niche. And finally, we have a little picture there of Breezy and Winnie. They've been mentioned already tonight, but I think that just that idea that we are bringing service animals into the building, support animals rather, that we have an advisory program that is developed by our guidance counselors to make sure students are getting monthly lessons based on some of the needs. I think the one that I linked there was one about managing stress, and again, just these sort of social emotional supports that we can fit in these places. Finally, I think the last evidence for me of the progress that we've made is I brought for you to take with you as what we give to the seniors when they graduate is a list of all the places that they're going to school or what they're doing next. And in my 7 years here at the high school, I don't think that we've had a wider range of post-secondary options for kids. We have gotten some students into their dream schools. We have found students who are going with their match schools. And then we have some students who are very proud to be going into the workforce, or even better, to be going into an internship program where they are, starting low level, but they know they will get, they will build on that. So I thought you could take that with you to kind of look and see where the kids are going. So I think that's it. Oh, some questions.
Questions? Anyone have a question before Pete? 'Cause he's gone first every time. All right, Pete, go ahead.
So following up on what Melissa was saying earlier, I mean, I think the high school is our shining example of where we can offer differentiation to students. I know it's definitely a struggle, and I agree with you, Melissa, at the elementary and middle school level, but at the high school, outside of that level, English we have in 9th grade, kids can really, be met wherever they are educationally. That may mean they're in classes with kids that are in completely different grades than they are, but they will be met with whatever level they're at, which, and I think to what Ms. McLeod was saying, I mean, the path our students go says, we're definitely giving them the right education to make sure whatever their dream is, they're not being held back by their Wakefield Memorial High School education. They're given an opportunity to really end up anywhere. So I do think we do a great job at our high school, outside of that one exception in 9th grade, differentiating all those opportunities. But I do agree, like there's always an opportunity. It's much harder at the lower levels where we just don't have this. You have one teacher and they're with that teacher, so it makes it much harder to do that differentiation. But I do want to call out that example where I think our students do have that opportunity to be accelerated.
Yeah, and I would make the argument, Pete, that even in 9th grade, our teachers are doing, and our English teachers are doing an incredible job with the differentiation, right? And meeting kids where they're at, because we have small groups, and we're able to differentiate whether it's what they're reading or what their level of writing is, so that they're getting that individualized support so that they can all grow, and kind of giving them that opportunity to have a baseline start together. It's a nice community that's built there, and then they launch from there. So I would say that is the exception, and I think it's working. But yeah, we're really trying to make sure that, again, the idea of expanding opportunities for kids is what we want to do.
I won't raise my hand again.
That's okay. No, you're welcome to. I just wasn't sure if anybody would jump in there first.
For like 2 minutes,
Any other questions? Go ahead, Al.
One, so they talked about, it was goal 2, and it talks about, and we all know the importance of addressing the higher mental health needs of everyone, right, currently. I'm just not aware, is there a curriculum that you guys use within, let's say the middle school where it talked about SEL support that you use during WIN, or at any different points that you maybe have like a dedicated like SEL like block during the day that a curriculum is used to kind of gauge, kind of almost like a universal mental health screener of sorts? Do you guys have something like that you use during those time periods?
So yes, I can answer that in a couple different ways. I think in the WIN block, we're really lucky at the Galvin to have a really robust student support team. So we have a guidance counselor at every grade level. We have 2 school psychologists, and then we have a counselor for our TLC program, which is a very specific program. And so within that, in designing the WIN block, we were able to kind of insert those folks more intentionally into spaces with students, whether they're students who are selected because on screeners or in some other place, they've indicated that they could use some additional support in that social emotional space, or whether it is a much more general, like in our upper house, the counselors, we want to see everyone through the so they'll see in groups, but by the end of the year, they will have met with everybody. And implemented some curriculum that's more general. So we've used Second Step, we've used restorative circles. We've had fairly extensive training in restorative circles, particularly among our student support team. So they're able to kind of tackle it from different levels, whether it's the small group intervention or it's the broader, like everybody's getting this dose or this structure that allows us to better have students connect with each other and address kind of issues that we're seeing throughout the school. I think in terms of screeners, we use the same ones as the high school, and the students see them and families see them kind of repeated as students move up the grades, particularly once we get to the 7th grade. We think of kind of a 7 through 12 in terms of the YRBS, in terms of signs of suicide, and that allows us to intervene at a much, depending on the screener, at a much more personalized level for students who might have a higher level of need.
And I just wanted to comment on what we talked about at the high school for the clubs and the number of different clubs. It's really important to build belonging and for students to find people that they connect with for their mental health. And it's often stated that the importance of having tethers to like the school, someone that someone connects with, has a higher impact on mental health than anything else. So I think it's great that that the number of clubs is just the Cheese Club included, is there for students to find someone they connect with and build a tether with.
Thank you. I do too. Thanks.
Melissa.
I'm just excited to hear about more about the pilot of executive functioning next year. Yeah, I'll be happy to share more. Yeah. Kate Hersman. Yeah, I know that we talked about it a little bit in school council, so it's nice to see that it's coming to fruition and see what it'll bring. Yeah, we're excited, and that lower house is watching the upper house too. So, like, can we replicate some of that in a future time?
Just to piggyback, 'cause I was thinking about executive functioning, and when you mentioned, Meg, to sort of we want to help kids with executive functioning so that they can meet their potential, academically. I would just urge that we look at all students, just because I know that there are certain students where their executive functioning, I'll just call it a deficit, doesn't show up as well because they are strong academically. And I think that time and space can be made for those kids at a younger age, but as they come up through the grade levels and we see more academic rigor, I think that they're doing well and often exceeding, but they miss this other part. And so I think if we're just looking at sort of that students are doing well academically, we're going to miss some students that could benefit from additional support around executive functioning.
No, I think that's very true. And I think there's also a difference between talking about like a very small kind of pilot program and then the greater need for executive functioning support across really an entire middle school, probably any middle school you could find, because I think you're right, it's not always the kids who are screaming for support through their data that could benefit from that sort of support.
Yeah, great. And I would just say sort of to echo on clubs and tethers, I think of two. It was, I think it was the computer club and the D&D club and the cheese club that I have heard multiple times through multiple presentations in these recent months, whether it was in the civics projects, at graduation, tonight, and they are so important. And you see that in the kids that sort of might otherwise be shy, just sort of knowing that all they need is one adult. And our educator population is as diverse as our community is. So the chances are they're going to find an adult that's into whatever they're into, basket weaving, crochet, cricket, whatever it is, they'll find somebody.
And one of our most popular clubs is the anime club that meets on Friday evenings. Do you think what child is packed?
Yeah,
and Mr. O runs it.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to drop by.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I will say I heard about the cheese club from my sister-in-law first, who was one of the people tagged in the cheese shops day at the cheese club. So I had to hear from somebody externally that our high school had a cheese club, and I was like, I had no idea. So that's
good stuff.
That's brilliant.
I went to that meeting.
Yeah. And hearing at graduation that it wasn't just about the cheese.
No.
So
wasn't.
a lot of community going on there.
Yeah.
So that's great.
It's awesome.
Great work.
Thank you.
I can.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, they have a banner. I love it.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, we know it's a packed agenda. We're running out of meetings before everyone leaves for the summer. But we knew it was a request from the committee to just hear an end of the school year update regarding grade 7 extended math. So we kind of kept it brief, but we'll leave if there are any remaining questions. We have Erin Bailey here, our math 5 through 12 math curriculum coordinator, And then Meg is here for support as well. It's happening in her building. So, so Erin, if I could pass, thank you for your patience, Erin.
Sure. And just checking you guys have my slide deck.
Oh yeah.
too.
Do you want me to, or Meg, can you click for her? Yeah. As we, thank you. Yeah.
We do.
We do. We're all set, Erin.
Great. Okay, so I'll start with just the quick facts about Math 7 Extended this spring. So if you go to the next slide. So there are 270 students in grade 7, and we started off our session with 133 of them opted in to participate in Math 7 Extended, so about half of the grade. And at this time, we still have 131 participating. 2 students decided it wasn't the right fit for them, which is fine. And we are kind of wrapping up our data look right now. I'm finishing up some grading to see who qualifies for grade 8 algebra, and we anticipate over 100 students will make it into that course. We've had 5 sections, each of them about 26 to 27 students, taught by all 3 7th grade math teachers, the math department liaison at the middle school, who's 8th grade teacher Jill Bucher, and myself. So we taught 5 sections. Some updates and improvements we made were based off of feedback that we got from years past. So we increased our use of Google Classroom to provide access to resources and extra support. I was posting in there weekly with what materials we were using, some extra support videos, pointed to places where they could practice, and communicated about what to expect for each week. We increased family communication about progress via email updates, and also we used PowerSchool this year to share assessment grades, which was an improvement and a request from last year. And then we improved alignment and rigor with resources. We were looking to illustrative mathematics as our primary resource, and then high quality standards aligned supplemental materials. We were differentiating our instructional approach. We included things like scavenger hunts and digital escape rooms and a bunch of different online tools. We got some self-correcting and instant feedback resources, and we increased engagement, and I feel like we really reached a lot of students. And so the students are the ones who I wanted most feedback from, and so we gave a survey. We had a bunch of questions on there, but I wanted to have the student voices at the forefront, and so I pulled a lot of the anecdotal answers that they gave. So I asked, one of the questions was, what did you enjoy most about Math 7 Extended? And some of the things they said, I enjoyed learning new math concepts that were a little more advanced compared to normal math class. Challenged me, I had help when I needed it the most. I enjoyed the funny moments that made me laugh and doing fun activities to learn. It helped my regular Math 7 feel way more easy and understandable. Getting to have an extra math class during the day. Teacher's kindness. I was able to do more math, and I love math, so that was good, and I also enjoyed being able to work with friends in this class. Things that they said were the most challenging, I felt like these 3 bullet points kind of summarized the bulk of the feedback. One was that the most challenging part was learning new math material while doing their regular 7th grade math material. For some students, having it first period was rough. And then for some, they said that learning all the concepts in a short amount of time, it is an accelerated learning pace, and so it's faster than they're used to. And it's their first time being exposed to that as well. Additionally, we asked, what would you change about the Math 7 Extended program? Some folks said I would make Delta math lessons a little shorter and make them optional to see who's really working hard, which I thought was some sweet feedback. And just to clarify, we did message to them that we're going to report out on if you're doing it, because we do think the best way to learn math is by practicing math, but it wasn't impacting their grade. So it was optional, but it's kind of like practice for sports, and music. If I could, I would change the amount of time we have to learn topic because it's too short. And then some advice that they would give to a student who's thinking about taking Math 7 Extended next year. I would tell them it's a great choice, but they must be ready to work more than normal classes. Make sure you're actually ready to join, not just because your friend is. That peer pressure in middle school is a real thing. It's very fun. It makes you feel more prepared for other math classes. The teacher will help you if you don't understand something. It will be okay. I would advise them to try to learn math and have fun with math, to try your best and not stress too much. You're just receiving an education. The units go by fast, so if you like taking your time, it probably isn't for you. And this last one I think was one of my favorites. I would advise them to just have fun in the class and enjoy the math and try their best, and to not stress too much about it, because in the long run, whether you get into algebra or not doesn't define how smart you are. and you will still get same education, but mainly just enjoy the math and try your best. So a lot of their feedback was super sweet, and I really enjoyed getting that. We also sent a survey to families to get their feedback. I gave a lot of rating questions so that we could get feedback, and most families agree or strongly agree that their child received the support that they needed, that they were well informed about the expectations and content, that the school communicated effectively, that it has positively impacted their child's confidence in math, and also that their child is better prepared for future advanced math courses. And a little bit of anecdotal family feedback here. So proud of his grades, his skills, his knowledge, and most importantly of all, he wanted to do more and learn more. He loved his teacher and felt acknowledged for his efforts. She loved the challenge. He felt supported and was always there. He felt support was always there if needed. Math is a strong subject for my child. Past years' math curriculums have been either easy or in line with her skill set. I loved that she was challenged and had to learn how to rise to the occasion and either 1, ask for help, and or 2, sit and struggle with a problem until she worked it out. And that to me points to like productive struggle, which is something we talk a lot about in our PLCs and how to get students really engaged that way. I do think there was some feedback too from families that like while we made large improvements in family communication, like regular emails and the use of PowerSchool, there's always still more work to do. And one family suggested a Zoom with parents to kind of show them where all the resources could be found, and that's something I would definitely do next year. I also talked with my teachers about it and surveyed them on what they thought. They felt like they had clear expectations this year that aligned with an honors course, that the resources were well organized and rigorous, that it's a good thing we provide it to all students. It's an opt-in program, and everybody has the opportunity to participate, and in the long run, it should benefit everybody. And I think the data that Megan showed during the middle school presentation on the goals was a good indicator of that. And then they said, I'm excited to keep teaching it next year. It's one of my favorite things to teach. Of course, something we want to look at are markers of success. And so I have kind of some past year's data here. I have 8th grade and algebra enrollment numbers, which have increased overall over the last handful of years. And then really it's about where they're headed beyond that as well. So I have some 9th grade geometry enrollment, which is what they would take after 8th grade algebra. And so I indicated the number of students enrolled, but then also put in parentheses at the honors level or the CP level. And our current requests for next year include 72 honors and 31 CP. Some of these numbers will go down because of these are the requests for the high school, but some students will choose to go elsewhere for their high school experience. And then we have some benchmark data from, I did the middle of year 8th grade data. That was what was best available at the time that I was making these slides. And we're continuing to see some positive trends. So if you take a look at the next slide, we're seeing that like overall over the last 4 years, our green is increasing and our red is decreasing. And so this is one marker of success that we can look to for seeing if what we're doing is working. And then in terms of some next steps, we will continue to refine and improve our curricular resources and improve communication with families about progress during Math 7 Extended and what resources are available for their students. We will continue to collect data on student performance, both at the Galvin and at the high school. And we will continue to take student, family, and teacher feedback into account for updates to Math 7 Extended experience. We made a lot of changes to the program over the last couple of years, and a lot of that has been because of feedback we received. And so the last slide is just a place, I put a Google form there in case there were questions or feedback for anybody beyond tonight, a place for people to put information. But if there are any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank
Kevin.
you. Thank you.
So what was the first year's cohort for extended math? Was that the 2021-2022 school year?
So the first year that we reverted it to, well, during COVID, we ran it kind of a little bit differently. The year after COVID, there was like a math, accelerated 7th grade math class. And then after that, we moved it to a semester model where it was happening during team time.
And that was 21-22, the version.
That was the 22-23.
22-23, okay.
Yeah.
So that year is now, are they 9th graders now?
I believe
Those
first
are the
cohort?
10th.
They're-
Sorry,
okay.
no. Yes, 9th.
They just finished their 9th grade.
They just finished 9th grade.
Yep.
Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah.
if there was any way to look at any measure. I know there's no MCAS freshman year, so it'll take another year to look at those scores. I didn't know if there was, besides enrollment, I didn't know if there was any other data points in this year's freshman year that could be used to, kind of look at how the program's doing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, what we really have mostly is grades, and I wouldn't necessarily look to those as like the strongest marker of, consistent success. But we are looking at what we can do to bring a sort of diagnostic assessment to the high school so that we can continue to measure success on a nationally normed assessment.
I do think, I'm just remembering back to the problem we were trying to solve and why we made some of these shifts too. And Erin and I were talking about this as she was preparing this presentation. I think it's going to be in a couple of years where we'll get more information on the problem that we were trying to solve, which was we were seeing a lot of kids, trying to take the extended math or taking it, or maybe not as many, but dropping off as high school went on, dropping off from our honors and our AP. In our accelerated classes, we weren't seeing them kind of stay the course in accelerated classes through high school. So in a couple of years, we might have more information on that. Yep. Oh.
Yeah. Because I looked at, if you just look at 8th grade MCAS from 2022 through 2024, one thing you notice is that the difference between the state average and our average is very low in 2022, 2023, and then 2024 is a massive jump of improvement for the proficient and exceeding expectations. So it does look, just based on that, I mean, who knows? There's only a 1-year data point that there was an advanced growth in, what was that, last year's 8th grade MCAS in 2024. One thing that would be interesting to look at, is also isolating kind of the exceeding. Like, obviously, if you're looking at advanced, in geometry, and isolating that from proficient. But I know it will take more years, just to try to figure out what's actually, causing some of the data changes. But that, that looks promising. That one isolated point.
I think MCAS is tricky because of the cut scores, right?
Yeah.
The cut scores can change year to year, and that can change, what groups look like. So, but I think the point that Kara and Erin are talking about is just kind of how students are projecting, right? If we're running 5 sections, if you're thinking about, if we're running 5 sections of 8th grade accelerated math, these are potentially 5 sections of students that, if they were projecting 1-for-1, would be taking, our highest level math classes when they get to 11th and 12th grade.
And I think by opening it up to anyone really who has the appetite to take an additional math class, we always talk about worst case scenario, you don't end up doing algebra, but you had essentially an extra semester. You had all this additional math instruction. So then when you're in Math 8, which is the track you go on if you don't go to algebra, you're just so much better prepared for that. And so I think some of that improvement in the general 8th grade is that a lot of kids just got a lot of extra math by their own choice, which is kind of cool, whether or not they end up on a particular track.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This also raises the question about other points of acceleration, which is kind of a fall topic that we'll talk more about.
When we first started talking about the changes to accelerated math, one of the things that you guys talked about, or that Lindsay talked about before she left, was that in MCAS in 10th grade, a lot of the data suggested that students that were involved in extended math weren't necessarily doing as well on 7th grade standards in the MCAS. I'm curious if that's still true or if that's changing, or...
So one of the reasons that we tried to shift to this model, the 7th grade standards are really foundational for algebra and beyond. And since we were running a 7th grade accelerated class, they were essentially doing a year and a half of math condensed into 1 year. And by switching to this model, we're allowing for a full year that's devoted to those 7th grade standards. And they're still getting that extra half year of math that prepares them for 8th grade algebra, but they're getting it in addition to. So they actually have more time on learning for those foundational 7th grade skills, and we're giving time for addressing the 8th grade skills that would be omitted from their 8th grade experience if they were in algebra. And so I'm hopeful that we will see continuing increases in performance on 7th and 8th and beyond MCAS because more time is being devoted to teaching those foundational skills.
I think another cool, I'm thinking going back to the recent PLC where there was this kind of cool story about students who maybe this was the first time that they got hard feedback about their performance academically, and the power of that in a good way, right? That for many students they kind of sail through and everything, and then they hit this class, they're like, oh my God, you know, like, and for most of them that's really it energizes them, right? And it's kind of like, oh, like, and so I think I don't know where that shows up in the data, but I would imagine at some point, like that's, if you've been a high flyer who's just kind of been cruising and then you kind of hit this challenge, that is exciting. And then that kind of puts you on a pathway that we would hope kind of builds another set of skills that serves you in 8th grade high school and beyond.
And some anecdotal data just to add to that, I was talking with some kids in my section of Math 7 Extended about their iReady assessment that they were doing last week. And a couple of them said, like, oh my gosh, I knew so much more on this one than I did at the middle of the year one. And they were like nerding out about how much they knew this time compared to past times that they'd taken the assessment. They really felt like they had made a leap. And then the data really reflected that Megan showed, that we went from 9% at or above to 44%, which is like wildly impressive. And I'm so proud of the kids and of the team of teachers.
Great, thank you.
Did I see you with your hand raised, Pete? No, you sure?
I can raise it. No, I mean, I'll add. I mean, this is to your point, Melissa. This is one of those points of acceleration you were talking about. I mean, we've had this in different forms. Like, you know, kids just took this instead of the regular seven math. But as you had said, or your predecessor, Aaron, you know, we had kids that struggled in some of those basic concepts as we tried to rush in all this additional math in the short period of time. And I know that you wanted to really make some modifications this year and trying to give more time for the 7 extended block because it was just too rushed when we tried it the first year or two of kind of breaking it out separately. And it sounds like those steps have, you know, let's cross our fingers. It sounds like those changes have worked.
Yeah, I hope so.
Is there any plans to run a summer version of 7 Extended like you have in the past? Or is there interest, or did kids have enough opportunity to try it during the school year that you don't need to run a summer program?
Yeah, great question. The summer programming is not happening, but one of the reasons for that is because we changed Math 7 Extended to be opt-in, so anybody who wanted to do it could do it, and in kind of like a low stakes way, in the sense that it wasn't like a grade that showed up on their report card, and this was like a nice way to get exposed to the math that they needed. So yeah.
Okay. And it sounded like some of the feedback you got was they wish that they had a little bit more time. I know we went from like the last trimester to 2 quarters. Are you thinking about extending it even further earlier into the year, or are you happy with where it is?
I feel pretty good about where it is, mostly because, you know, we're doing roughly a half of year's worth of math in about a half of year. Granted, we meet 4 times a cycle instead of the 6 times that would be kind of in a regular math class. But I do feel that many students are equipped to handle that kind of faster pace that is required, that we want to kind of urge them to see now so that they know how to prepare for an honors level class. I've seen a huge improvement in just the way that kids prepare for their assessments just within class this semester. And so I think they're learning some student skills. You know, Megan was saying that they maybe haven't had to learn before because math felt so easy for them. And this was maybe one of the first times where they felt challenged and had to be like, oh, I actually need to practice some of this first, or check in with the teacher and get some support. And so I'm really excited too, just about kind of the soft skills that I do feel like we improved upon, but we don't necessarily have a measure for.
All right, thank you.
Aaron, one question I have, and maybe Meg, you can speak to this, is I think one concern that sort of parents had or students was about doing this extended math and it taking away from their team time. And I know that it's an opt-in piece, and that some of them are are volunteering this time, sort of, but sometimes they might feel like they need to take it, that they're sort of being pushed in this direction, and pro or con. But have we looked at whether or not we can schedule this differently so that they're not missing some other time? I know how precious time is. I know how the blocks work. I'm just curious if we're looking in any way.
So that was
the schedule.
definitely a big concern the first year because team time wasn't restructured the way it has been with Wayne.
Yeah.
So if you want to,
We actually haven't had team time since the first year, so I think it's win block now, so everybody's in something academic.
so that's the difference.
So
yeah.
you're either in an intervention, an enrichment, or accelerated, math extended. And so there isn't anybody who's doing something that would be perceived as, I think, more desirable or then everyone's in a scheduled class at this time.
So that whole block is more
and that's
targeted now. Yeah, exactly. So I think the frustration the first year, which I got, I think we all did, was some kids got more traditional team time where there might be more opportunity to catch up on work or do their homework or do, kind of check in with kids socially. It's just a different type of block. So that first year, the kids did feel that they were maybe missing out on something. But like Meg said, now it's just like that natural rotation of everybody going to something a little more targeted.
And Erin alluded to the 4 days out of the 6 days cycle because there are 2 days in the upper house that we call flex time now, which might echo some of the team time spirit in a way. But it's still even that is more structured than team block was. So they get that too. So they have those opportunities to go check in with a teacher, do attend to something else that they needed to attend to, along with all of their 7th grade classmates.
Okay, so the move into more of a win time kind of scenario sort of gave space to this.
Yeah.
And I see the numbers that are enrolled, so it's not like they're actually missing their peers. They're probably in.
No, yeah, most of their peers are.
Are in.
are
Okay.
A lot of them. No,
Great. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you so much, Erin. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meg.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Meg.
it.
Thanks for the extra time.
Yeah, no problem.
Good night, Meg.
I just have one point of clarification, and then that closes out my group of topics. In regard to the METG Musical Theater Awards last night that the middle school got, the best performance in a supporting role went to Rocco Salamini, right?
Is he Sven, or was he the reindeer?
No, that was EJ.
Oh, okay.
I think Rocco was Hans.
Oh, okay.
I think I have that.
I thought everyone supported Elsa, so I feel like everyone's a supporting character.
Right.
The snow was a supporting character.
Yeah.
Do you not have one other thing?
No, that I don't need to include that, but just for I don't need to include that item. No. So the answer is no.
Okay.
But just as a point of information for the committee, all of our collective bargaining groups are settled, and so we're in the process of getting signatures on MOAs. But that's really good news, and we're spending the remaining days in the school year working on squaring away our non-reps. So, good news.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to those in our employ. All right, moving on to chair comments. First thing I will do is I will say we have an open meeting complaint that we need to sort of have a quick discussion on. So there was
computer is.
Okay. So we had a, this is not deja vu, we had a secondary open meeting complaint, pretty much mirrors the first. It is in relation to meeting minutes, which we kind of started this meeting off with. It was made by Miss Julie Scott. I have sort of been in communication with our town council, SEL council, Thomas Mullen, to ask if he would sort of be willing to take this up on our behalf. And so what I would request is that we have a motion and that we vote on allowing Mr. Mullen to enter into conversation about this particular complaint request on the behalf of the school committee.
Move that the school committee engage the services of the Wakefield Town Council, Thomas Mullen, to respond to an open meeting complaint on the committee's behalf.
Second. Motion's being seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. The next thing would be our reorganization of officer. Well, right before I do that, while I'm still chair, I'm just going to say, so there was there's a couple things. Graduation was amazing. Thank you. I think I've heard a couple times about the amount of student involvement that we have in graduation and how it is a standout. And I could not be happier about how that comes along. Sometimes it's hard to kind of carve yourself away for somebody else's graduation, and sit on a Saturday. But it is a pleasure to do that and to sort of hear stories, hear the essayist, see the banner that was done this year. The music that is performed is always just top notch. And even Kevin's speech was pretty good. Just
What
a
was
great.
it, ChatGPT or the?
I never saw the poll at the end, but so that was amazing. The other thing was that between our last meeting and this was the rededication of the Civil War Memorial on the Upper Common, and through the work of former town councilor Bob Vinson. He worked very closely with Dr. Lyons in getting students involved. And with our history departments, getting students involved in writing up stories, doing research on soldiers and sailors from Wakefield that had taken part in the Civil War, what happened to them. And so some of these stories were on display for people to see in the Baptist Church. It was amazing. There was some musical accompaniment that some students had been able to supply. And I just thought it's just any time when the district sort of bleeds out into the larger community and can showcase just what bright kids we have in our district. They just make our community better. So, and I think the schools play even just a small part in sort of growing up these kind of community members. I think we take pride in it. So I like to say thank you wherever that is appropriate. So, all right. So moving on. Now that I can be chair no more, so this will be fun. I'll enjoy the free time. Annual committee reorganization for election of officers. We will have a nomination election of our chair, of our vice chair, of our warrant signer. On our subcommittee and liaison assignments will come later after, because that'll be the decision of the chair. So I will open up the floor to entertain motions for any of those positions. Pete, because you're first.
Let's Kevin go, 'cause you said I was on.
It's got to be Pete.
I move to nominate Kevin Fontanella for chair of the school
Okay.
committee.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor of Mr. Fontanella being chair of the school committee?
Do I vote?
You
Yes.
can. I mean, it's narcissistic, but you can. Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. What do you do on election day? All right. So that being said, for chair, we can now entertain motion for vice chair or warrant signer. Anybody? Kevin.
Motion nominated Kevin Piscatello for vice chair.
Brain.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on Dr. Piscatello for vice chair? Nice pick, by the way. Those in favor? Unanimous. Great. And nomination and election of warrant signer. This is an unsung role, I tell you. It's really great to actually come in every so often, go into central office, get to meet the people, sometimes bring them cookies. Everyone is so wonderful. And Tim can tell you what's going on with the new school. Pete?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Melissa Quinn as warrant signer.
That's brilliant. Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
All right, cool. Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Oh, this is so fun. Yeah, you should. All right, brilliant. That's awesome. And so we will look for Kevin's email on future dates and agenda items and whatnot.
Yep.
And thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for volunteering. All of you, actually. Thank you. I know that's time. All right, so to close out subcommittee reports, finance and facilities, Mr. Markham.
The subcommittee met a week or so ago, did a debrief from a town meeting, talked about some of the summer plans and projects. And we worked with Dr. Lyons and the administration, and we reviewed the salary ranges for the non-rep, meaning non-union staff, district administrators, and building principals.
Great.
So,
thank you.
We do not have another meeting scheduled at this time.
Sure. Great. Libra, you seem to have a question.
I was just curious, in terms of minutes from those meetings, from prior meetings, will those be done tonight, or will those be on the 24th?
We did them already.
Ah, beautiful.
That was a really long consent
Nicely
agenda.
done. Thank you.
It sounded
All
like
right,
a wedding vow. It was so long, but.
Nicely done. Well done. Thank you.
All right. Labor and Personnel, Dr. Piscadlo.
Thank you. We haven't met, and it doesn't seem like we need to meet anytime soon. Dr. Lyons had mentioned. Really happy that going into the summer, we've settled all our contract negotiations. And so just, I wasn't here at the last meeting, just a thank you to Kevin and Tom, who served on the committee, of course, the administration, the teachers, and others who are part of the process. For the one that we were most intimately involved in, the Unit C, I mean, I think it went incredibly well. I think both sides were great negotiating partners, and so I appreciate the Unit C leaders, the WEA leadership that were a part of that as well. And so to go into the summer with a contract is a great great thing to have. So I'm just really happy to be here and to have gone through that process. So thank you to everyone who is so great in doing the hard work in completing it. And Sarah too.
Yeah.
Sarah Spatafor is wonderful. So
That's great. Student services. I know student services.
We have not met.
All right. Work continues on, I think, late start time.
We are.
That is in your court now, right?
Well, right. So later start time is starting in.
Oh yeah.
That will start in September.
Okay.
Right.
The
work on
So
it,
the work
not
on
the
it
actual
starts in
late
September,
start.
not the actual
Not
late
the
start.
actual later start.
That's for the year after.
No. Yes. We've talked about this. It's getting late.
Yeah.
Yeah. You understand.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good.
You understand.
So we shouldn't start school at 10.
Thank you, Erin. I agree.
Pete, policy and communications.
Policy and Communications has not met, but our plan will be, we'll probably wait until after reorganization before we meet again so that we can have a full crew. And we did learn that we can start to migrate our policy site over to the MASC site even before we've completed every single book. So that's probably a task we'll take on, is to work with Michelle and work with MASC so that as we bring on all these new updated policies just approved, start to get the site transitioned, and that way we can grow that site versus continue to invest in just putting static PDFs on our current site.
That's great. Yeah, that'll be a welcome tool. Okay, liaison reports. Pete?
So the Human Rights Commission next event will be on June 18th at 6:30 p.m. They will have a Juneteenth flag raising event at the AmeriCal. They did do their Pride event, I forget what day it was, but it was probably one of the best attended Pride events that I've seen since I've lived in town. So that they had some really good speakers, and I thought it was a great event. And that's it that I have for that update.
Great. I would mention I am not the liaison to the ESC, but I do know that they are having a recycle and sustainability event with co-sponsored by Rep. Kate Lipper-Garabedian, and I think the Wakefield Warrior cleanup crew is going to be there as well. It's going to be at the high school. The cleanup crew is going to be cleaning up around the high school and the Woodville. And the recycling event will take anything from like TVs and CRTs to printers to car batteries to tires. If you go to their website, there's a list of what you can pay to get rid of those things. I think I have a lot of things on their list, so I'm looking forward to it. But so that is this Saturday.
I just want to piggyback on that the Youth Action Council is running a school supply drive for gently used school supplies that can be passed on to kids in need next year. So if you're around, actually any of the elementary schools at Galvin, and I think there's a drop off at the high school, but I'm not 100% sure. There is? Yeah. Awesome. But they'll also be taking donations next Saturday as well.
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay. Future school committee meeting will be in 2 weeks on the 24th. And then school committee comments. Kevin.
Just really quick, I just want to thank you for your leadership this year and your role as chair. There were rumors around town that you were refusing to step down, and I just want to understand. I never said anything different. Yes, he's refusing to step down. But seriously, thank you very much for your leadership. It's not always an easy job, and I think it was a very smooth year. And so thank you for everything you did for us and for the community and for the schools.
Pete?
Just echoing something you said and something Kevin said. So I'll start with what you said. I was really impressed with the graduation ceremony. The student speakers were great. I thought Kevin did an awesome job as well. The musicians, they always impress me with their skills. And special thanks to WCAT. I know they're understaffed, but they did a great job preserving that moment for future history on YouTube, et cetera. So I'll always be there as a memory. Also want to thank you for your service, Stephen. You've done a great job for the whole committee. And also say that those who have students from 8th grade and up, for the incoming school year, the start of the marching band season is beginning tomorrow. There'll be a session, either virtual or in person, to learn about that program. And I know we've spoken about it many times here on just what an opportunity it is for our students, and something that is not offered at that level in many other districts throughout the country in Massachusetts. So if your student is considering that, I'll give my 2 cents that you should definitely encourage them to find out about that and participate. And that was it for me.
Okay. Melissa.
I just wanted to take a minute to congratulate the youth council and the kids at the school that are organizing a competition around carpooling to reduce problems with parking and exhaust emissions. I think that they're doing a really good job. It was something that they talked about during the engineering design program, and the Wakefield Youth Council is getting involved and supporting it. And if you show evidence of carpooling, you can get a chance to win a gift certificate to Cravings. I think it's
that's awesome.
It's a great program.
Good for them.
So congratulations, you guys are doing a great job.
That's fantastic. Kevin.
I want to thank Stephen for printing these out for me every week, because I obviously cannot keep my Chromebook charged. So thank you for that. That helped the meetings go relatively smoothly. And also for graduation, I think I've said this the last couple of years to people I know, but I think the position of the essayist, like someone that's just picked by the student body, or I actually don't know how it's done. It could be a cabal of teachers doing it, but I hear it's students that pick. I think it's a really great idea that actually there's people that's actually democratically picked, and I really think that person every year does give a great speech. So I think that's definitely an idea I think other schools should copy, because I think it's a really good initiative.
Yeah, same thing for the MC. I think is also student voted, right? Yeah, awesome. Mr. Markham.
Thank you. I just wanted to add my voice to a couple things. Certainly, congratulations to the class of 25. I wasn't able to join you last Saturday, but certainly I was there in spirit and heart, and wish all members of the class and their families nothing but the best. Congratulations to really the entire school district as the school year winds down. It's been There's been ups and downs and bumps and bubbles, but in full warrior spirit, Wakefield had a terrific year. So thanks to all the faculty and staff and teachers and administrators and everyone that it takes to run a very complicated but critically important school district. So and also, Stephen, thank you. Being chair has complications, and there's tons of work that are behind the scenes, not just the 3 hours or 6 hours, a couple times a month, standing here in the spotlight. But we appreciate your work, appreciate your patience and your guiding hand, and your passion for what we're all doing, and it certainly showed. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay. With that, I think we can close the meeting before 10.
Pete can speak for a few more minutes.
Hold on, I gotta raise my hand.
You want to get over the 10 o'clock.
Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, June 10th, 2025.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Brilliant.
Good night. Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Pat. I'm a proud Wakefield Memorial